Okay, please sit down. Thank you very much. My name's Councillor Matt Lamb and I'm the Mayor of Worcester, and I'd like to welcome you all to this full council meeting tonight. Just a preamble. This is a public meeting and members of the public and press are permitted to report on the proceedings. Reporting includes filming, photographing, making an audio recording and providing commentary on proceedings. Please note this meeting is recorded and streamed live. These recordings are published on the relevant meeting page of the Council's website. By choosing to attend this meeting, this public meeting, you are deemed to have given your consent to being filmed or recorded and for any footage to be broadcast or published. If the alarm sounds, the premises must be evacuated immediately. Do not spend time collecting personal belongings. All emergency escape routes are clearly signed. Once you have left the building, the assembly point is in the High Street opposite the Guildhall. Members and other speakers are reminded to use their microphones when speaking. Can also please remind members who are sharing a microphone to hold their name card over the left side speaker on their shared microphone unit so that they are signed in before they speak. You will need to do this each time before speaking. There is also an instructional note on your table. Finally, if a vote is taken on any item, can you please raise the yellow card that is in front of you on the table when you vote. This will make the counting of votes clearer. So the first item on the agenda is I'd like to invite everyone to stand. So we'll observe a minute's silence for the former City Councillor Christine Cawthorne, who's very sadly recently died. Thank you very much. Thank you. We will pay tribute to Chris under item 4, Mayor's announcements, and then other members will be given the opportunity to say some words if they wish. The next item is my city orator, Dr. David Craik, who will be speaking prior to the beginning of the main meeting. Dave.
Thank you. Worshipful Mayor, Madam Mayoress, Honourable Consorts and members of the Council. The Mayor's theme for this mayoral year, of course, is learning, and even for myself, I've learned a great deal about the history of Worcester and its great place in the history of British democracy. Right from the actions of Oliver Cromwell defeating Charles and the end of tyranny here at Worcester, and the visit of Adams and Jefferson. But another great commemoration that we made in this city, I wasn't around at the time, was the visit of Winston Churchill in 1950. And I choose this particular episode because there is so much to learn from his visit, and also from the holdings that were at the Guildhall but now been transferred to the City Archives regarding his visit in 1950. In Churchill's time, his great speeches, his rhetoric, his leadership and his diplomacy ensured that Great Britain emerged from the Second World War, powerful, victorious, but exhausted, and still intact as a parliamentary democracy. And Churchill always argued that the Second World War was about parliamentary democracy above tyranny. But it was more than that. It was also about the emergence of a free and liberal society from those terrible days of World War II. After many invitations, Churchill finally visited Worcester in 1950. It was a real job to persuade him to come and visit the city, to collect his honour of the freedom of the city. And it was a remarkable event for the city, and he was showered with gifts. Worcester porcelain presented a soup tureen. Founds, the glove makers, presented gloves, which had been begun in 1945, but finally delivered them to him and his wife in 1950. A desk was made with a city coat of arms for Churchill. Learning is to be found in the documents and all the photos that exist here in the Guildhall and also in the city archives, and they are well worth a visit. The documents detail the gratitude that the city felt towards that great defender of democracy, parliamentary democracy, Winston Churchill, and we learn that we sit here today because of his leadership, and we honoured him with that visit. But democracy delivers, the supreme irony. After spending 6 risky years defending democracy and leading the nation, it used democracy to bundle him out of office at the end of the war, but not within gratitude. Thank you very much, Worshipful Mayor.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you. So item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence. So do we have any apologies?
Yes, Mr Mayor, we have received apologies for absence from Councillor Riaz, Councillor Agar and Councillor Murray.
Thank you very much. Item 2 is declarations of interest. And I think Sian just wanted to make some points before we start.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to confirm that in relation to one of the motions that relates to government policy around renters, private sector landlords, I've been asked for advice as to whether there is a declaration of interest to be made there as regards renters or landlords in the room. My advice is that the motion is sufficiently general and relates to national policy making, not the council policy making. Therefore, I don't think it gives rise to a declaration of interest. If members do wish to declare an interest, I would advise it's a disclosable interest only, not a pecuniary interest, and members can continue to participate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sian. So are there any declarations of interest? So Councillor Udall?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've got 2. Item number 6, under local government reorganisation, I declare an interest as a county councillor. And under item 9.3, the referral report about fees and charges, I declare an interest as a director of Lowick Swimming Pool.
Thank you. Councillor Gregson?
Thank you. On the motion 6 on the local government reform.
Thank you. Councillor Mace?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I declare an interest for the local government reorganisation proposal as my wife works for Worcestershire County Council.
Thank you. And Councillor Lewin?
Thank you, Mayor. I declare an interest for agenda item 9C is freedom and leisure, proposed fees and charges, as I am a member. Thank you.
And Councillor Sobczak?
Motion 2, renters' rights as a landlord and a former renter.
And Councillor Amos?
Thank you, Mayor. Member of the County Council on item 6.
And Councillor Round?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, as a landlord in the city. Thank you.
Okay. And Councillor Cookson?
If we're doing people who are employed by the Worcestershire County Council, I do quite a lot of commissioned work for the County Council.
Thank you. Councillor Cross.
Item 2 relating to landlord activities.
And Councillor Pingree.
Do I have to declare an interest as a county councillor? Presumably one doesn't have, I mean, previous advice, as I understand it, is that one doesn't have to declare an interest if you are in the register as being a member of another authority.
I don't think it's necessary for members who are appointed to the County Council to declare that fact, but they may do so if they wish to.
Thank you very much. I don't see any others. Okay, thank you very much. Item 3 are the minutes. I'm assuming that you've all read them. I'm not intending to go through them page by page. I assume you've digested them. Can we agree that the minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of September are a true and accurate record? I'm seeing lots of nods. I don't see any shaking of heads. Any matters arising? No? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and we now move on to Mayor's communications. And I'm going to start by saying a few words about Chris Colthorne, and then I'll invite others to also say some words. So I was very deeply saddened to learn about the passing of my friend and former colleague Chris Colthorne. I served alongside Chris as a councillor for St John's from 2012 to 2021, and it was an enormous privilege. Chris leaves a legacy of kindness, integrity and commitment to our community. Chris's lifetime of service in the probation service, at the Asher Women's Centre, and through her work with MAGS, Worcester YMCA, the Worcester Play Council, Citizens Advice and the Hot Market Charity, both shaped and reflected the compassionate, grounded voice she brought to the council. On the licensing and planning committees, she was diligent, fair, and always focused on what would genuinely help people. As a councillor, Chris was honest, direct, decent, and exceptionally caring. She was a dedicated ward councillor, even when dealing with challenging cases such as dirty trousers. And Richard will know who I'm talking about. She spoke plainly, listened deeply, and acted with a quiet integrity. She was respected across this chamber, but treasured by those of us who worked closely with her. Many of my warmest memories of Chris come from campaigning together. We stood side by side in local elections, general elections, the EU referenda, and more. The West Side crew has always been a very close-knit crowd, and Chris was at its heart. Every election day, she opened her home on Lawn Road as our HQ, keeping us fueled with endless tea, coffee and cake. After canvassing, we often ended up at the Bedredine, the Bell or the Brewers Arms to plan the next steps. Her Labour Party dinner parties were famously fun affairs, with laughter, good food and copious booze in equal measure. And who could forget the socialist ramblers, myself, Chris, Richard and Zoe taking second place in the 2018 Mayor's Charity Quiz. Only a few months ago, Zoe and I took Chris for lunch. She was wonderful company as ever, warm, witty, full of interest in everything happening in Worcester and always ready to hear some gossip. And when she stepped down in 21, Chris received heartfelt tributes from across this chamber, a fitting acknowledgement of her service. Worcester is unquestionably better for all she gave, and she will be deeply missed. So a number of people have indicated that they would like to say some words. So if we start with Councillor Alcott.
Mayor, thank you, and Council, good evening. Yeah, it was quite a while ago now, and obviously I stood many times before I was elected, and I think throughout that period and when I was newly elected, Chris was always around, and she was, whenever I'd fail, she'd like, don't worry, it's, you know, it's the council evening meetings, you wouldn't like it, and she'd joke and just make me feel really good and kind about myself. Yeah, and I think she's just a real stalwart. And I did have the opportunity in March this year, I went to visit Mountbatten Hall Retirement Village, and obviously I saw Chris there, which was really nice. It was next to Boost, and she looked well, and I'm just just very sorry that we've lost her now, and thoughts are with family and friends, but she was always very supportive to me. Yeah, thank you.
I've got Councillor Norfolk.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm speaking on behalf of the remaining St John's Labour councillors, Jenny Barnes, Richard Udall, Sue Smith and myself, who have worked closely with Chris over many years. Chris was a hard-working and dedicated and supportive local councillor. She loved St John's and its people. However, she was never afraid to be brutally honest, and she's one of the few people that have managed to tell Richard to shut up, and he's listened. She was also never afraid of telling residents when she disagreed with them. It was done with charm, dignity and with respect. We've already heard how Chris opened up her house to St John's councillors, and we often met at her house to discuss issues and to plan campaigns. She was also fun. She organised many Labour Party social events, worked hard to raise funds and to bring people together. Many people today are councillors because of her efforts and hard work. She organised our leaflet distribution and ensured our message was heard by residents. She hated attending council meetings, which she found boring, but she loved helping people. She brought a unique position about housing issues and domestic and sexual violence. She shared her knowledge and did more than most to ensure diversity and the voices of the voiceless were heard. She was a user of public transport and advocated for the expansion of bus travel across the city. Whenever she was needed, she was there, always cheerful, always kind, and always with a joke and a kind word. She was a fierce defender of her community. She spoke truth to power. Her devotion to her family was very clear, and we were her Labour family. She was an advocate, a representative, and a friend. Even those who did not support her politics always respected her opinion, which was expressed with passion, knowledge, and with her own characteristic style. She was once described as the Shirley Williams of Worcester politics. It was said as a compliment, but I'm not sure she took it as such. Well-known local characters, including Mr. Dirty Trousers, respected her for her honesty and hard work. We will miss her. Rest in peace, Chris. You were taken away from us far too soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Louis, Councillor Stevenson.
I'll remember Chris as someone who joined in, someone who went the extra mile. And I think you can see that by the number of different organisations that she supported, from things like the Friends of Cripplegate Park, MAGS, Worcester YMCA, Worcester Play Council, Worcester Citizens Advice Bureau and the Hot Market. I'll also remember her passionately as one of the directors and as a proud feminist talking about the great need for us to support the Ashes Women's Centre. I'll also remember her diligence over many years on the planning committee. And I remember her working with her on a cross-party task and finish group where we were working towards, which was to come the eventual move to the committee system. We travelled together in the minibus down to Stroud and talked to the other councillors there, both Labour and the Green councillors there, and got their point of view about how we should set up the new committee system. Not everyone was a fan of moving to the committee system, but she was fair-minded and willing to give the new system a chance. I'll finish just by saying that Chris will be remembered for someone who didn't just turn up, but someone who really took part and got things done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further contributions? No? Thank you. Thank you for those words. They're very heartfelt, very important. So just a few further points from me as Mayor. Since we last met, it's been a while, my mayoral engagements have continued at pace, once again showing our city at its best, city of remembrance, community creativity, learning and shared purpose. The period of remembrance is always one of the most profound parts of the civic year and as my role as Mayor. And I was honoured to lay wreaths on Armistice Day and Remembrance Sunday, to join the procession to the cathedral and to take part in the deeply moving silence observed throughout the city. At Asford Cemetery, the Royal British Legion service highlighted the diversity of those who rest there, reminding us of both sacrifice but also reconciliation. I also marked the 111th anniversary of the Battle of Gallivelt and welcomed the Poppy train at Foregate Street Station, carrying tributes from across the region. The Light and Shade Veterans exhibition at the Guildhall offered a powerful reflection on the journey from conflict to recovery. And supporting veterans is a very, very important part of my role in this year. I joined the Armed Forces and Veterans Breakfast Club for their 10th anniversary. What began with 10 people now regularly brings together around 100. And I opened the city's Veterans Conference only last Saturday, thanking Pat Agar for her tireless advocacy and leadership when it comes to supporting those who have served this city and our country. Worcester's community spirit has been equally evident. Food cycle at the Tolladine Centre and the Warndon Open Door Cafe both showed the quiet compassion that strengthens our city. Volunteers offering food, warmth and conversation to anyone who needs it. A visit to the local Cubs group in St John's was a lively and uplifting reminder of the enthusiasm of young people who asked excellent questions about civic leadership and the role of the Mayor. I also attended the relaunch of Business Buzz Worcester, an increasingly valuable, open and welcoming meeting place for small businesses. Cycling and sustainable travel remain close to my heart. I visited Bike Worcester Workshop to donate 2 bicycles and collect a beautiful refurbished one, and later joined their critical mass ride, wearing both my helmet and the mayoral chain, to highlight the need for safer, more accessible streets. My engagements have continued to reflect a strong focus on learning. I took part in the High Sheriff's Getting Caught programme, which I'd highly recommend, attended graduation ceremonies at both the University of Worcester and the Heart of Worcestershire College, and helped promote the Summer Reading Challenge, celebrating the power of reading to build confidence and imagination. Culture and creativity have remained vibrant across our city. I opened and closed the Real-Time International Film Festival, supported Black History Month at the Guildhall through the Our Cultural Heritage 2025 event, attended a parliamentary reception for New College Worcester, and led Guildhall tours during Heritage Open Days. 2 joyful highlights were the Monday night club's talent contest and Dines Fest in St John's, wonderful celebrations of community pride and inclusion. I visited the Worcester Breast Unit Haven, and at the Worcestershire Health and Social Care Awards, I presented the Mental Health Award to Stepway, a local veterans charity whose work is truly outstanding. Finally, I remain committed to supporting Acorn's Children's Hospice, my mayoral charity for the year. The Sellout Voices Unlimited concert at the Guildhall and the generosity of Rainbow Court Dental Practice once again showed the kindness and goodwill that characterise our city. Looking forward, I'm hoping to raise even more money for Acorns when we invite the fabulous Beyond the Barricades to Worcester for the very first time. They'll be playing the Swan on Thursday, the 16th of April 2026, and it will be a sellout, so make sure you get your tickets now, available on the website. I know the council is running a Christmas raffle in which you're always encouraged to buy tickets, because the proceedings from that will also go to Acorns. And the annual Victorian Christmas Fair will be formally opened on Thursday, the 4th of December, and promises to be an exciting civic event. So I would encourage you all to attend that. And please join me after the meeting for cake in the Mayor's Parlour. So thank you very much. So the next item on,
On a point of order, with your indulgence, you will have seen, hopefully, in the inner reception area, a beautiful model of the Guildhall. Now, this has been made by Chloe, one of our own Guildhall staff, and it is a fantastic work of art, and I think we're indeed fortunate to have such talented members of staff. So my ask is that you find a permanent space in the lower hall and allocate it so that all visitors can have the privilege of seeing this wonderful work of art for the foreseeable future. So I'm asking if you could make space available, and thanks to Chloe for a really marvellous piece of work. She's done it off her own back without asking, and I think we should be proud of it and display it so that all the public can see it.
Whilst I share the sentiment, it's not really a point of order, Councillor Amos, but it is a point fair made. I appreciate all the work done by the people who work here at the Guildhall, and I will certainly look into see what we can do about that. So thank you very much for that. So the next item is public participation, and we do have 7 members of the public who wish to participate. Now, having taken advice on the Constitution, because there's 7 people who want to contribute, we have, and I think this has been communicated as well, we're asking people to speak for 3 minutes, please. Okay, so 3 minutes. That will be timed by Claire. Okay, so normally it would be 5 minutes, but there is an item in the Constitution about the total amount of time which can be allocated to public participation. So our compromise is 3 minutes per piece of public participation, if that's okay. Thank you. So the first speaker is Melissa. So if Melissa would like to come up to the public participation spot. Okay, and when you're ready, Melissa.
Thank you for making Worcester a sanctuary city for gender diverse individuals. Thank you for blocking council staff and councillors from removing trans-inclusive policies and enforcing non-inclusive policies for transgender and gender diverse individuals across the city. You really are a special council for doing that. Hold on. That is incorrect. Worcester in Massachusetts, USA has done that. The city that's took their name from this city when the English invaded America has taken this radical step, protecting their citizens from the likes of their president. For people who don't know what a LGBTQ sanctuary city is, let me explain. A sanctuary city is a city that adopts policies that protects and supports LGBTQ residents, like enacting policies that doesn't harm members of the LGBTQ plus community. For example, refusing to enforce laws that could lead to discrimination, having access to resources by ensuring resources are available for necessities like healthcare, education, housing and employment. Another way through is support and advocacy, working with like-minded groups such as Sugar Daddy's Cafe and Out Together to support and signpost for this reason. Other organisations are available, like with Worcester and Boston in the USA, blocking city staff and councillors creating policies that target the LGBTQ plus community is another way of achieving sanctuary status, not banning books to help people discover themselves. I've recently stepped down as diversity officer for Out Together, a role that has been challenging and rewarding in equal measure, a role that has been different on each of the last 3 to 4 years in post. Like with many safe spaces in Worcester, the LGBTQ plus community are losing places where they feel safe. I know that I only go to places that I feel safe going to. Queer Voice is a monthly spoken word night that is soon to be gone if funding isn't provided. The community needs all queer spaces remaining open and more made available. I know members of this council will still refuse to work with me. That still doesn't stop me from suggesting that if you want me to work with you to achieve this, I am happy to do so. As a university city, this would help more students decide to study here. On a personal note, it would be nice to do something important for the LGBTQ community in Worcester before I leave the country next year. Kind of like giving back to them for supporting me when this council turned its back on me. Please help me to help the community that I love and support. Will the council look at becoming a sanctuary city for LGBTQ plus community? Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. A written reply will be provided for you. Thank you. The second speaker is Alec Mackey. Thank you, Alec. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to address you on this matter. namely the necessary extension of the existing insufficient facilities and care provided at our Worcestershire Royal Hospital by utilising the now redundant County Hall and building and site. Now that the County Council have decided that they have no further use for this building, this is a golden opportunity for this council to encourage the County Council, other neighbouring authorities and members of Parliament and the Worcestershire NHS Trust to press the Secretary of State for Health to secure this site for the future provision of these facilities. You are well aware that the South Worcestershire Development Plan envisaged the creation of some 2,000 homes for 20,000 people over the next 2 decades in the South Worcestershire countryside, adjacent to the current city boundary. But nowhere in this plan is hospital provision mentioned for this future people growth. Bearing in mind that the Worcestershire Royal Hospital was built with insufficient capacity to serve the then existing population, let alone one forecast to become much greater in the years ahead than the current 610,000. I'm sure we are all aware of the problems faced daily by patients and staff by the lack of bed space, which leads to bed blocking, ambulance queues, corridor treatment, and excessive waiting times. All these problems have been admitted by the Worcestershire NHS Acute Hospital Trust many times, and in a recent planning application to this City Council have stated, and I quote, "The current capacity of the WRH will not be able to absorb the increased demand for health care caused by residents of the South Worcestershire development. County Council plan to set a marketing timeline for the sale of County Hall
30
and
seconds.
the land. My research into the planning consent granted by this City Council in February 1972 for the establishment of local government buildings and health facilities, this permission still exists, so it would be possible for the site formerly in the ownership of the city to be developed for health facilities and not sold for housing development without a change to the planning permission granted in this room 53 years ago. Finally, Mr. Mayor, I call on you and the leader of the council to bring together representatives of all those organisations and individuals I have mentioned to a meeting here to discuss and agree to a united action plan to secure the County Hall site and building to be developed for health facilities as envisaged by your predecessor city councillors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alec. A written reply will be provided for you. Thank you. The next speaker is Jessica Woods. So if you'd like to come up to the public participation spot. And you have 3 minutes.
Dangerous, animals, criminals, just a few of the words used to describe immigrants in the UK. In fact, immigration is similar to a rainforest, diverse and beautiful, yet seen as threatening something too unknown. All people see are illegal immigrants, those who have made the perilous journey here just to have the hope of a life different to what they once held in the war-torn country they once called home. Can you imagine risking your life just to be faced with abuse and discrimination due to the malicious lies spread by the media? Despite most immigrants in the UK being here legally, they still face the consequences of these stereotypes in day-to-day life. Some stereotypes about immigrants are that they are taking jobs or living off of benefits which hurts the economy, but this is simply not the case. In 2024, immigrants contributed £4.6 billion more in taxes than they received in benefits and public services. Additionally, they not only aid the sustainability of public finances, but also enhance the overall economic health of our country. Davidson Morris, who are lawyers specialising in employment and immigration law, highlight that most immigrants are employed in sectors such as healthcare, STEM and finance, all extremely noble and important careers, and without them, institutions like our NHS would collapse. This completely shuts down the stereotype that immigrants never give and only take. But regardless of the fact that these stereotypes are false, they have severe consequences, leaving all immigrants, regardless of their status, susceptible to discrimination and hate, which invites the question whether the current conversations around immigration are simply a way to disguise racism. Racism is something that is deeply rooted in society, slinking its way into our lives in front of our very eyes. It has become so normalised we begin to become blind to it. Research published in the British Journal of Sociology shows that white immigrants face significantly lower levels of discrimination when applying for jobs compared to non-white applicants. But unfortunately, this is the thin edge of the racism wedge. Most people don't like to think of themselves as racist, but allow themselves to believe the stories they hear in the media about immigrants, which are invariably negative. The next general election is due to be held no later than the 15th of August 2029, which means that people my age will be voting for the first time. Part of the reason I wanted to speak today is to educate others on how immigration is negatively and inaccurately portrayed in the media. But I also want to give a message to those who are using social media to target young people with their lies and distortions about immigration. We see you, and you don't speak for us. You try and tell us that your past is better than our future, not because of the intergenerational inequality caused by policies like Brexit that curtail our travel, study and work opportunities, or the failure to build sufficient houses, meaning that only those of inheritance will likely be able to buy their own homes, but that our problems are caused by our friends, classmates and neighbours who happen not to have been born here. As councillors and representatives of your communities, I urge you to use your platform to stand up against this hateful rhetoric and teach others the power social media and propaganda can hold when used for the wrong reasons. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, thank you. And a written response will be provided for you. Thank you. Speaker 4 is Francis Lancaster. So Francis, if you'd like to come to the public podium. You have 3 minutes, Francis.
Which asked for initiative to sign up to Hope Not Hate, which of course has a proud record, as I know from having been a teacher for many years, of opposing racism and fascism. But it's not the same organisation that it used to be. Over the years, it's developed some kind of obsession with Brexit, and in particular, Reform and Farage. It has a page, Never Nigel, in which you can sign up to say that you will never vote for Nigel Farage. It also targeted Susan Hall, the Conservative candidate in the London mayoral election. So it's become much more of a political attack dog. And because of that, people attack it. It's been referred by a member of Parliament to the Charities Commission to investigate the relationship with its charitable trust. It's been under fierce criticism for the use of a passport in a different name from an activist who was infiltrating far-right groups. Its funding has been trawled over. It includes such funding organisations as the Paul Hamlyn Trust, which is an open borders organisation, so it gets attacked for that. Nick Lowles, who is a well-known leadership person in Hope Not Hate, has also been fiercely criticised for the tweet he made about an acid attack that never took place, which was cited by people who attacked a pub in Birmingham, and for another tweet he made about the hoax of the 100 far-right demonstrations. And people have said, perhaps it was a noble lie, but it's still a lie. So because of that, the council intends to sign up to this initiative. I've said several times that it's not a good idea, in my opinion, for the council to make policy at a full council meeting without having a detailed officer's report, which explains the consequences of taking this action. This is a consequential policy action with reputational consequences, perhaps. So I would humbly suggest to the mover to withdraw it temporarily, do further research and reflection,
30
and bring back a
seconds.
different initiative at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A written reply will be provided. Speaker 5 is Rachel Salter. So if Rachel would like to come up to the public. And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I started a play street in the Arboretum ward after seeing how hesitant my children were to play out. They wanted to do it, but they just didn't see other children doing it. They didn't feel they were allowed to be themselves, to play on our street, right outside their front door. We have a park round the corner where we go often, but the walk to the park starts on our street. Our street is where their sense of belonging and connection to this city begins. And for children, belonging and connection is built through play. Through our play street, I have seen such a strong sense of belonging and community established. It's wonderful. The children on our street who don't go to the same school now know each other, and they've played together. And there has been so much joyful play. And the value of that play has reached further than we expected. The children don't just know each other now. They know the lady at the end of the street who's lived there for her entire life, who comes out during play streets, and she walks her dog along our street rather than the canal, because she likes to see the street how it was when she was a child. They now know and wave to the elderly lady a few doors down, who, when she hears kids playing, knows she can pop out to ask me to help with her bins. They also know the nana on our street who bought biscuits from our local corner shop to the group of mums who were chatting as their little ones played. As she handed over the biscuits, she told us mums have got to look after each other. And she's right, because those same mums told me how hard it is to feel connected to their community when they're juggling work and family life, and how much they valued being able to just step out of the house to connect with each other and for their kids to be active. I want my children and the children of Worcester to feel connected to their community. I also want Worcester to know its children. They're brilliant, and they're the future of this city. I've seen how holding space for them to just play in their community, on their street, has connected neighbours of all ages. I hope that the future of those children will be adults putting bins out for me. So I'm asking today for you to please vote for motion 4. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and a written response will be provided for you. Speaker 6 is Nicola Stobbs. Nicola? And you have 3 minutes.
Like many of you here this evening, when I was a child, I was hardly ever in the house. I would be out on my bike playing with my friends, exploring, racing to the horse chestnut tree in the school field, desperate to be the first to gather the windful of conkers, taking them home to thread through string, ready for conker fights the next day. Childhood is not like this anymore, however, and children are more likely to be interested in face packs than backpacks and adventures. They spend little time outdoors, away from adults, learning to be independent, developing their imagination, resilience, and confidence to manage challenges. Unintentionally, we have created a world where sedentary lifestyles are common. Declining childhood freedom has meant children are less able to assess risk, and child obesity and inactivity has increased alarmingly, storing up health problems for later life, such as type 2 diabetes, poor bone and muscle health, poorer balance, with greater risks of falls and fractures. We need to ask, is there anything we can do to fix this? And then act. Poor physical and mental health are caused by complex factors, but studies have shown that being outside, particularly in green spaces, has a direct impact on everyone's well-being and relationships, and for children, may also influence their academic performance. In addition to these benefits, there are positive knock-on effects. The wider community benefits from a positive sense of itself as communities coming together for play creates a safe and happy place. It also combats antisocial behaviour and helps build friendships within neighbourhoods. From an economic perspective, parents considering how safe and child-friendly a city is before relocating there for work or choosing to stay is common. Having families invest financially and emotionally in a city is valuable because it brings stability. There are also benefits for the local economy as families spend money on housing, groceries, childcare, healthcare, recreation and education. This demand generates stable jobs in sectors like education, retail, entertainment and hospitality. Attracting and keeping a steady population of young families will help Worcester maintain or increase its population, helping to reverse decline, ensuring a consistent tax stream to fund our public services and infrastructure, such as schools, parks and libraries. So although it would be lovely to have money to build amazing parks and beautiful streets, let's at least start by agreeing that we want children to enjoy the benefits that we had when we were able to play out. Building resilience does not come by completing a workshop, but by experiencing the everyday joys and disappointments that naturally arise when playing out independently. Please vote for motion 4 to enable outdoor play and community belonging because it will offer so many potential long-term benefits for the city and its residents, and because children are important, and because it's people coming together in their communities that brings hope and positive change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You will be provided by a written response. And the final speaker is Simon Cottingham. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. My name's Simon Cottingham, and I'm co-founder and trustee of Worcester City Welcomes Refugees. We work directly with families across the city from Afghanistan, Syria, Ukraine, and many other countries of origin. We also support asylum seekers under a contract with Worcestershire City Council. I want to recognise the genuinely good work that this council has done and praise the foresight and the leadership that this council has shown. But we're about to enter a new period where immigration, and we heard earlier, is going to be a much more contested idea. And I think it's time that we think about coming together at least once a year, maybe twice a year, to think about the following in some kind of refugee asylum seeker forum, because there are a lot of challenges at the moment. Government changes to immigration, people's worries and concerns over migration, threats towards asylum seekers, refugees, health, especially mental health of people fleeing war, jobs, housing, training, LGBTQ issues, because a lot of young men who are in that hotel actually are fleeing because they are gay. We need to think about Refugee Week, how we use Refugee Week to be a learning experience for people. There's no single place where people come together at the moment, and I think some kind of light touch, multi-agency forum meeting, maybe once a year, maybe led by the council's refugee lead, could just bring us all together, just to share ideas. Refugee Week is an absolutely fantastic opportunity to learn about other cultures, learn about the impact of war and the inhumane policies that many face, learn about how extreme poverty drives people to seek sanctuary, watch the fantastic new BBC series around civilizations. It's absolutely brilliant if you want to understand how migration is at the heart of
30
this.
seconds.
And finally, I'd like to ask the Council to help recognise the significant contribution over 20 years that the Afghans in our city who worked for and with British forces made. Former Marine, Royal Marine and Help for Heroes case manager Larry Holmes said they were a real asset. Without them, many more lives would have been lost, without a doubt. They worked for and stood with us, and we should stand with them. Our remembrance celebrations should note every year that contribution from those people who fought with our forces. And I ask Council, consider setting up a multi-agency forum at least once a year, maybe twice, strengthen coordination of Refugee Week, and additionally ask the Council to think about how it recognises the Afghans who gave their lives for ours in Afghanistan at Remembrance Day each year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and a written reply will be provided. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you to our public speakers. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is item 6, local government reorganisation proposal, and I think this is going to be proposed by Councillor Denham.
Thank you very much, Chair. Transforming Worcestershire, local government that works for people, powered by place and built for the future. The minutes of our last meeting is a reminder that it's less than 3 months since this council met and made the decision to pursue the option to create 2 unitary councils, North Worcestershire and South Worcestershire. The document before you has been developed by 5 district councils working together to develop a shared vision for better public services. Public services which will shift from crisis to prevention. Communities will feel more connected and empowered. Local services will respond faster to everyday issues. Vulnerable adults will live healthier, happier and safer lives. Children and families will be supported to stay together. Young people will have better access to skills and jobs. Better housing will support healthier lives. People and businesses will benefit from stronger local economies. That is the vision that we've developed together, and a level of cross-party consensus which is based on a detailed knowledge of our places, our communities, our strengths, and focused on the people that we represent and who use our services. This proposal would put Worcester City into a South Worcestershire Unitary Council along with Malvern Hills and Wychavon, with our city at its heart, and it would remove the organisational, geographic and service barriers that exist between ourselves and the County Council. Transforming Worcestershire takes a pragmatic approach to localising the delivery of large county services with a Director of Adult Social Care and a Director of Children's Services for the North and for the South, 1 each, but with a shared oversight and governance around safeguarding boards, for instance. Our proposal is shaped by feedback from public consultation, extensive dialogue with partner agencies and with stakeholders. The government are looking for us to submit proposals for the redesign of local government services to do things differently. This is our chance to grasp this opportunity. Our proposal is closely matched to all of the 6 criteria set out by the Ministry of Homes, Community and Local Government. Criteria 6 refers to stronger community engagement and genuine opportunity for neighbourhood empowerment. The detail is within pages 96 to 105 of the submission. Charter trustees are proposed to ensure the preservation of Worcester City status into the new world that lies ahead. This has also been built into the One Worcestershire submission, which is supported by Wyre Forest and the County Council. Our city is really, really important to us and the length of history that we have. And I will expect us to look at the potential for neighbourhood area committees and the roles for town and parish councils in the new year to look at that detail. We are the last of the 5 district councils who have collaborated together. We're the last ones to meet. There has been overwhelming support for transforming Worcestershire by our council colleagues. But tonight, this is Worcester's chance to have our say and to look at this submission before it goes to government. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Denham. And I understand this is being seconded by Councillor Mace.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very happy to be seconding this proposal this evening. I'd like to pass on my thank you to the hard work for putting to the proposal by officers, group leaders and members, both here in Worcester and across all of the districts that have been involved in writing this proposal. I would also like to say thank you to Lynn in particular for her work on this. There's been many meetings that leaders have had to attend in the last few months to get us to where we are now, and it has been a substantial effort by all involved to deliver this high quality proposal at pace, supported, I hope, by all 5 councils. I hope that we can pass this proposal unanimously this evening. Now, I do agree when I'm told that we didn't ask for local government reorganisation. I agree when I'm told that whatever happens, residents are going to end up with less democratic representation. And I agree when I'm told that it is wrong that the decision about our future will be made by someone in Whitehall who has likely never visited Worcester or Worcestershire. But there is opportunity here, and that opportunity is transforming Worcestershire. Now, the County Council's One Worcestershire proposal exists for one reason and one reason only. It was decided on by the Conservative administration a year ago, as soon as they got a sniff of being able to delay elections for a year, enthusiastically supported by senior officers who will be in pole position to keep their jobs under One Worcestershire. The fact that One Worcestershire proudly states that it has been created without direct political involvement reveals the truth. It is written to change as little as possible. They haven't consulted with members of the public because the County Council, as ever, is simply not interested in their opinions. Perhaps if they had, they wouldn't have had to correct their sums during the council meeting. One Worcestershire will transform nothing. The opportunities that can be delivered by our Transforming Worcestershire proposal, including making decisions for Worcester by people who consider Worcester their nearest city. We can take our strong work to spend money to save money, like purchasing our own temporary accommodation to avoid costly bed and breakfast spending, or converting our crematorium to electric to avoid costly gas, and apply that to building our own send capacity to save money on a budget the County Council's auditors called out of control while serving a statutory notice. We can ensure that parents get the support they need before they need to get an education, health and care plan. We can make it easier to walk, wheel and use buses in Worcester to improve air quality and health outcomes. Transform Worcestershire will deliver councils that do things for our residents, not to our residents. I'm not going to talk about the financial differences between the different proposals, which seem to be the only advantage the county can claim for One Worcestershire, simply because their numbers can't be trusted. For many years, they have claimed that they will deliver millions of savings and then failed to do so and spent all their reserves plugging the gap. This council said it was going to deliver £970,000 of savings this year, and it has done so. Only Transforming Worcestershire will rethink our services and actually save money. So the numbers really are moot. Transformation can save money, continuity will not. Please do vote for this proposal tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any further speakers? Okay, so Councillor Scott.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you very much, Lynn and Alec, for proposing this excellent motion, which I fully support. The case for a north and south division of Worcestershire is very well made, and I fully support that, as I do indeed the government's drive to devolution of services from central government and the modernisation of local government, of which this is a part. I'm really pleased to hear that we will be reviewing in a bit more detail how this will work locally. I think the idea that the city as a unit will be without its own directly elected local council for the first time as a result of this proposal is something we should view with caution. And I will be arguing, and I'm sure others will join me, in forming that we should form a new lower tier council, as indeed on page 100 of the lengthy report, it gives evidences of proven neighbourhood government approaches. It cites Durham, Shropshire, Cornwall, which I don't know too much about, and Northamptonshire. The main cities of those 3 counties are all formed as city and civil parishes and do a great job providing non-statutory services which are at the say-so of the local people, funded by them, and are the sort of services which make those cities memorable. They're the festivals, the events, the extra landscaping, the small grants to communities, and all the sorts of things which a city parish council could do. So during the spring, it's entirely within the city council, this present city council's gift, to call for a governance review where we look in detail at the structures which will govern the city. We are surrounded by parish councils. Malvern, Evesham, Pershore all have their own parish councils. It would be wrong of us to not look hard at the possibilities of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Jagger.
Thank you, Mayor. As Liberal Democrats, our position has always been clear. We did not ask for local government reorganisation, and we as a party do not want it. It has been imposed on us, leaving councils with no real choice but to respond, which is why we abstained at the last vote. That said, we have worked constructively and responsibly with colleagues across the county to make sure the best of the situation. That was not of our making. If reorganisation is going to happen, then we must ensure it works for residents. The 2-authority model is not perfect, but it is the least damaging option for us, and it reflects the north and south character of the county. And it keeps decision-making closer to our communities and offers a more balanced, locally responsible approach to, as opposed to the one giant authority. Bigger does not mean better. A large cabinet-run authorities risk concentrating power in the hands of few and moving decisions farther away from residents. The 2-authority proposal at least protects local identity, accountability, and the ability to tailor services to different areas of Worcestershire. So while we remain firmly opposed to the organisation in principle, we will support this submission as the most practical and least harmful path available, a compromise to promote Worcester's democratic voice. It is not an endorsement of this national policy the Labour government have imposed on us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cross.
I'm all for local decision making and elected representatives to be as near as possible to residents. Local government reorganisation brings opportunity for service transformation. I'm alarmed that the county focus seems to be solely on projected theoretical cost savings. I'm very encouraged by what I read from our district councils talking about all the other benefits, all the other key pillars within this government parameters. It very much is a thing of the government creation and has taken up an awful lot of officer time and considerable expense. I think county figure is the unfunded cost is something about £270,000, and then for our city at least 33,000, plus of course the other districts that are involved, joined in with mutual ventures, all for basically a government to take a decision top down. So really happy at what's happening at the local level within our city, really concerned about what the national situation is. I really feel that this is a sledgehammer to crack a nut, but hitting the wrong nut. I mean, it doesn't seem to be going in the right direction. Very happy to support tonight's motion, speaking in a purely personal capacity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Alcott.
Mayor, thank you. I would just focus in sort of past local government reorganisation when the Minister has made his decision, as we look to the new year, I think it is vital, it is imperative that we do have a town or a parish council for Worcester here, and I would like to support Councillor Scott's viewpoint on that. And I would also add, I'm not sure if many of you have seen, but a Wyre Forest councillor wins a National Lifetime Legend Award. It was Councillor Fana Borski in Wyre Forest, and she's been a councillor for 52 years. And she has so much experience. And as soon as she heard about local government reorganisation, the first thing she said to me is, please, please, please have community governments review. Don't let Worcester lose its status. Please ensure it's a town or parish council. And she has also offered, she's willing to come over and speak as well. She doesn't, I hope she doesn't marry saying she has an 80th birthday celebration meal this evening. Otherwise she would be here. But she has offered to come and speak to councillors about past experience on this. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Collier.
Thank you. My point is just that in this country, we need to recognise that we have severe issues with voter engagement and therefore our turnout in elections, and that includes that's terrifying and a threat to our democracy. Now, local government reorganisation would have been a perfect opportunity to consider electoral reform as a means to allow residents to be better represented. Countries that use proportional representation tend to have a much higher voter turnout. Alas, I'm not currently the Secretary of State for Local Government. The two-unitary proposal offers a far greater opportunity for our residents to engage and feel representative, and for that reason, it's crucial we support.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Cookson.
I wasn't going to speak. I was not trying to think of something polite to say about this. I came into this meeting planning to abstain because actually I don't think the system is broken. I think there's a real advantage of a two-tier system. I think when you've got adult and social care absolutely out of control, not being funded by successive governments, there's a problem there. And as soon as you put our very valuable district resources in with that, I'm just really worried that Worcester is going to get completely lost on that. I plan to come in and abstain. However, actually listening around the room, I think what you've all done is convince me is this is the least worst option. So I am going to vote for it as the least worst option, but I would like to caveat that I think while there's been a lot of work and amazing work from officers in this, there's as somebody who's worked as 15 years as an officer at both this council and at the county council, I think there's a degree of optimism about exactly what can be delivered through service transformation. I think South Worcestershire probably is, given where we are, the least worst option, but I think we have to be realistic. What a consultant puts in the document, as somebody who is now a consultant and I write what I'm advised to write, I think there's real concerns about the over-optimistic of what this service transformation is going to deliver. And Matt predicted that I wasn't going to be able to shut up.
Thank you, Councillor Cookson. Thank you. Any other speakers? I don't see any, and therefore, Councillor Denham to sum up.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you everybody for your contributions this evening. It has been a journey and an awful lot of conversations and briefings to get to this point. A huge thank you to all those that have contributed to this document, to the hard work that's been put into it. Just to pick up a couple of points, I mean, with regard to the costs of the consultants, the cost for the submission that you have before us this evening, it's not as expensive as the one Worcestershire consultants, and of course the bill is divided between 5 of us, which is absolutely one of the many benefits of working together and working in partnership. Ultimately, yes, the decision will be made in central government. What the government will be receiving at the end of this week is a one Worcestershire submission and a North and South 2 unitaries submission. the government themselves will be going out to public consultation in the new year. So the public, all of us, will have another opportunity to express our opinions and as to which we think and what we think, and feedback into that. And then, yes, a minister will finally make the decision. But to be absolutely clear, it is not predetermined in the sense of it's been really clear all along that ministers are giving us locally to design and to choose what works for us and for our geography and our place and our economic footprint. And that, I absolutely think, is what we have before us. I hear the cynicism, but you have to have hope, which is probably kind of feeding into the next motion. There has to be a better way of providing services than what we currently have in Worcestershire. There are too many examples, I think, where our citizens have been let down and where we as a district have been frustrated in delivering what we want. And thanks to Alex for mentioning some of those. This is not just a name change, it is a co-designed proposal involving residents and partners, and it's the only proposal that has actually had that dialogue and that has been listening. There are realistic and sustainable savings within there. If you continue doing the same things and try and do them cheaper, that is not a solution, that is not an answer. We have to look at redesign and doing things differently. It is aimed to be safe, legal and reliable whilst delivering change with limited disruption. It's a clear choice for change this evening, and I hope that Council will support the report attached at the appendix as the basis for our submission to government as our proposal for local government reorganisation. And the formal recommendation also is to authorise the Managing Director in consultation with political group leaders to make any final amendments to the report and thereafter to submit the proposal to the government by Friday, the deadline. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Denham. So we now move to the vote. Please remember to use your voting cards. So all those in favour of the motion? All those against? And any abstentions? So the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda, is 7, and these the Council will now consider questions which have been submitted in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 9, and the questions have been circulated. So the first question is from Councillor Amos to Councillor Denham. Councillor Amos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To ask the Leader of the Council if she will confirm whether or not illegal immigrants / asylum seekers being sent to Worcester by the government for housing have been screened for A, terrorism offences and related activity, B, criminal activity and convictions, C, unacceptable attitudes towards girls and women, D, homophobic and other unacceptable attitudes towards the wider gay community, and E, diseases such as scabies and TB.
Thank you. I'm surprised, given Councillor Amos's years in politics, you're not actually aware of the responsibilities of different layers of government. this question is not related to a Worcester City Council responsibility.
Thank you very much. Is there a supplementary question, Councillor Amos?
Well, see, yes, Chair, because I think, Mayor, because I think we seem to be in the era of now of censorship. You can ask a question and you don't have to give an answer. So my supplementary to Councillor Denham in these circumstances is, why does she then support and defend a system which puts people potentially engaged in terrorist and or criminal activity and or have misogynistic and homophobic attitudes into housing amongst the people of Worcester and on a priority basis? Why does she support and defend that system?
I'm uncertain what system Councillor Amos thinks I am supporting. The laws of the land we all should follow. And there are immigration laws. There are citizens within our city, not everybody in the city. There is criminal behaviour in the city, whether it is via illegal immigrants / asylum seekers, as you suggest. There is a spectrum of citizens within our city, and those who disobey the law face the consequences.
Okay, thank you. Is this a point of information?
It's not really in order on the question. We can only take
Question. The next question, question number 2, is also from Councillor Amos to Councillor Denham. Councillor Amos?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To ask the Leader of the Council how many illegal immigrants / asylum seekers sent to Worcester by the government for housing have been given accommodation in Worcester so far.
I see Councillor Amos is really embracing the values of his latest political home. At the end of October, a total of 8 properties had been procured in Worcester City by the Home Office via Serco for dispersed asylum seeker accommodation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Amos, is there a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In fact, perhaps I could assist Councillor Denham, because she said 8 properties, and that is for 38 illegal immigrants / asylum seekers, plus, of course, the 121 in the Founds Hotel. But my supplementary.
Sorry, excuse me. Can we allow the councillor to make his question, please? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. But my supplementary is that, does Councillor Denham agree with Shabana Mahmood and Angela Rayner that illegal immigration has been divisive and has undermined social cohesion?
Councillor Denham?
I know a number of... There is a problem with the phrase illegal immigrants. When I used it earlier, I was quoting, reading off what Councillor Amos himself has said. I haven't studied in detail all the announcements by every single minister. I am generally supportive of the Labour government, who are doing a very great deal to fix what is going on, fixing Britain and the failures that we have inherited in many aspects, nearly every aspect of public life.
Thank you very much. Question number 3 is also from Councillor Amos to Councillor Denham. So, Councillor Amos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is to ask the Leader of the Council how many veterans and their families have been housed in Worcester in the last year, and how many Worcester veterans are estimated to be rough sleepers.
In the last financial year, 3 social housing properties advertised on the housing register were allocated to households that included a current or former member of the armed forces. In the current financial year to date, a further 3 social housing properties have been allocated to armed forces from the housing register. The council records the number of rough sleepers who have left the armed forces in the last 85 days as required by the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, and our number is 0, as it has been for some considerable time.
Thank you very much. And is there a supplementary question, Councillor Amos?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Perhaps I could assist Councillor Denham again in telling her that the 89 households of veterans who are on the waiting list means 143 serving and former members of the armed forces are on the waiting list. And therefore, given that we are a signatory to the Armed Forces Covenant, which requires us to give priority to veterans, is she satisfied that we're doing a good job for veterans, bearing in mind the figures we've just seen for the housing of illegal immigrants and asylum seekers?
Councillor Denham?
The Worcester City Council does its best as the housing authority to meet the needs of people on our housing register, including members of the armed forces. We know that there is unmet need for housing, and that is something that we are working on and doing our best to achieve, and working in conjunction with our neighbours and within the South Worcestershire Development Plan.
Thank you. Question 4 is from Councillor Cross to Councillor Denham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would the leader agree with me that the police play a vital role in community safety and community cohesion? And where there are individuals causing division and upset across our city, posting videos of Worcester residents online, and that these are receiving thousands of violent, sexual and abusive comments, that the police should be taking action rather than simply referring residents to the council?
There's a number of parts to that question. Yes, I would agree that the police play a vital role in community safety and in community cohesion. I'm not in a position to judge what is criminal behaviour. I would encourage all victims of abuse to report that to the police. And I have to say that's not as easy as it sounds. But only then can the police determine if a crime has occurred and investigate and prosecute as appropriate.
Thank you. Is there a supplementary question, Councillor Cross?
Yes, please. So I'm just wondering what actions that you as leader would like to see our city council take, and what you would like our county council to do that they currently aren't doing.
Worcester City Council, we have a responsibility for community safety and community cohesion, and take that extremely seriously. Both myself and senior members, officers of our officers have met with police colleagues on several occasions, and we've explained the negative impact that divisive activity is having on community cohesion. We work with the South Worcestershire Community Safety Partnership, Safer Worcester, City of Sanctuary, the Detached Youth Team, and our city and community events and community grants. Those are all part of community cohesion, and we work really hard at that. It would be great if all our partners gave equal importance and support to that.
Thank you very much. Question number 5 is from Councillor Mace to Councillor Denham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this month I had the pleasure of visiting Worcester Snoozelen, which offers a unique, accessible leisure centre in St John, with people coming from as far away as Liverpool on a regular basis because there are no other similar services exist between Liverpool and Worcester. Would the leader be willing to go and visit them and explore opportunities for the City Council to support their vital work?
Thank you. I would be happy to visit them again. I think it's been a few years since I did so. I appreciate they provide a new, well, as you said, a unique, accessible leisure centre. Yeah, happy to go and meet them.
And is there a supplementary question?
Yes, there is. Thank you. Thank you very much. The expansion plans you have going on are very exciting, so it's definitely, I would recommend a revisit. Would you be willing to invite our MP Tom Collins to also visit the Snoozelen and encourage him to pay tribute to their provision in Parliament?
Potentially, I'm sure they can communicate with our MP themselves. His address and how to contact him is well known.
Thank you very much. And the final question, question number 6, is from Councillor Pingree to Councillor Denham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is, councils across England are warning of an £8 billion funding gap by 28/29 financial year, according to the Local Government Association, which means many authorities will be forced to make impossible choices about which vital services they can continue to provide. Here in our city and county, we're already cutting deep into the non-statutory services that our residents depend on. Can you tell me what discussions you've had with our MP about increased and sustainable funding for local governments?
Thank you. I think I would actually challenge the assertion within that question and the premise that's there. This council is actually doing a brilliant job. We have not cut deeply into non-statutory services. That is far from the case, and I think it's really wrong to paint that picture. As an example, you know, we have public swimming, we have 3 leisure centres that we support, we have several green flag parks, we have festivals and cultural events programme. The Bridges of Light was amazing. The Victorian Fair is coming, and we have very active planning enforcement. All of those are discretionary activities, non-statutory activities that this council continues to support and that I have fought to continue as far as we are able.
Thank you. And is there a supplementary question?
Yeah, thank you. Earlier when we were talking about LGR, you mentioned that LGR should provide a council that is built for the future. And I have concerns about, you know, our current funding isn't enough. We are having to make cuts. I appreciate that we are doing a really good job at keeping a lot of the services, not non-statutory things that are important to our residents. We are having to make cuts each year. And I'm wondering if there have been any sort of significant changes that have been confirmed post-LGR in terms of local funding.
Well, we're all awaiting on the Chancellor's budget, Chancellor of the Exchequer. No, that is taking place tomorrow. There will potentially be a clearer view about funding for public services across the board following that. And then subsequently we will know exactly how much funding this council is going to obtain. And I know that our MP has been lobbying to ensure and to make the case for Worcester and for Worcestershire, because one of the concerns is that significant funding streams have been or are directed to the combined authorities that have the elected mayors, and we absolutely, and he is making the case that places like Worcestershire can't wait for the funding that goes to metro mayors. We need that funding, we need investment in other parts of the UK as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we now move on to item 8 of the agenda, notices of motion, and we will now consider notices which have been submitted for this meeting in accordance with the Council Procedure Rule 8. Motion 1, Hope Not Hate. This is proposed by Councillor Kimberley. Councillor Kimberley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After Jessica's words earlier this evening, I seem to have a tough act to follow, so I will give a speech after I have just read out what this motion says in brief, just for those who are watching. Hate crimes. This council notes that hate crimes in the UK have increased in recent years, particularly those targeting people because of their race, religion, sexuality, gender identity, or disability. The Hope Not Hate campaign has worked nationally and locally to challenge hate, division, and misinformation, to promote unity and respect among communities. Worcester is proud of its diversity and history of standing up for fairness and inclusion. This council believes that every resident has the right to live free from fear, prejudice, and discrimination, that local government has a vital role to play in tackling hate crime, promoting community cohesion, and supporting victims. Standing up against hate strengthens, not divides, our city. This council therefore resolves to reaffirm Worcester City Council's zero-tolerance approach to all forms of hate crime and discrimination, to work with local partners, including West Mercia Police, community organisations, schools and faith groups, to promote education, awareness and reporting of hate crime. To sign and promote the Hope Not Hate pledge, encouraging councillors, council staff and residents to stand together against racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, transphobia, misogyny and all forms of hate. Designate an annual Worcester City of Hope Week, coinciding with National Hate Crime Awareness Week, to highlight positive community projects and provide safe spaces for dialogue to take place. To ensure council policies and training include proactive measures to record, to recognise and respond effectively to hate-related incidents. And finally, to report annually to Communities Committee on progress in tackling hate crime and promoting inclusion across the city. I'll reserve my remaining marks for the end of the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kimberley. And I understand this motion is going to be seconded by Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Mayor. I formally second this motion. I'm proud to second this motion. In this chamber, we know that Worcester is a city of kind, welcoming and generous people, but we must face some uncomfortable truths here and across the country. Hate crimes have rocketed. In England and Wales, over 140,000 hate crimes were recorded last year, a record number. Most were racially motivated, but there were thousands of offences linked to religion, sexual orientation, disability and gender identity. This coincides with a rise in far-right activities and the spread of misinformation via social media, which aims to divide communities. Tonight, we reject such hatred. If New York can elect Zoran Mamdani despite threats from Trump, Worcester can resist the far right. This motion condemns hate and promotes actions, including educating youth on respect and diversity, supporting victims, and collaborating with police, universities, and community groups to foster tolerance. Hope is a bridge. Tonight, together, we will build it up brick by brick. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other speakers? Okay, Councillor Will.
Having worked for the NHS for over 25 years, I've had the pleasure of working alongside colleagues from all over the globe. Doctors, nurses, allied health professionals, pharmacists, porters, biomedical scientists, cleaners, you name it, the NHS relies on them. At the end of the summer, several weeks after the start of the flag campaign that has been acknowledged by those responsible locally to be an expression of anti-immigrant sentiment, a friend of mine, a nurse from India, and her husband were racially abused while walking around Nunnery Wood. In nearly 20 years of being in Worcester, this was the first time she'd experienced such explicit racism. She asked me if I thought it was safe for her kids to go back to school. More recently, two Worcester Sixth Form students experienced a racist incident on a train where an older male made deeply offensive and racist comments about immigrants and cultural dress. The hate crime statistics convey what we all feel. Hate is on the march. Now, there may be some who try to justify their racism, conscious or unconscious, behind excuses. It's about protecting our culture. It's about our women and girls. It's about our children. It's not the nurses we have the problem with, it's the illegal immigrants. Only the people who abused my friends didn't stop to ask them their immigration status or their number of years of dedicated public service. The guy on the train didn't care whether those students were the right type of immigrants. Hate, it seems, has very porous boundaries. We are having this debate at a time where those seeking to build political capital with their divisive and inflammatory rhetoric are deliberately driving an us versus them narrative to create a climate of fear surrounding anyone who looks or sounds like an outsider. Their version of reality seeks to activate prejudice, often perniciously, by leveraging stereotypes. They might be criminals. They don't share our values. They're taking all the houses. They're bringing diseases. They're getting free everything. Before you know it, they're eating your cats and dogs. Doing this all while trying to attempt to maintain a plausible deniability. When intolerance is left unchallenged, it doesn't remain static. It grows, and with it come the consequences that undermine both public trust and community safety. In Worcestershire, we've seen councillors tacitly condone the abuse and intimidation of residents who stood up to hate through their participation in online groups that endorse such conduct. I'm proud to sit on a council that values inclusion and participation over exclusion and division. I wholeheartedly support this motion, and I thank my colleague Ed Kimberley, who's been the target of vicious abuse and threats, for speaking out, for bringing it before us. Hate has no home in Worcester.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Desira.
Thank you, Mayor. I speak in support of this motion. A Worcester resident, who for obvious reasons will remain anonymous, recently described to me encountering two individuals putting up flags at the early stages of this campaign. Unaware of what the flags represented, they asked about their purpose. The response they received was shocking in both content and brazenness, containing overtly racist and deeply offensive language that I will not repeat here. This incident makes clear that hateful intent has been present from the outset. Since then, those involved have attempted to disguise their motives with language of peace, unity, and love, yet their rhetoric does not align with their behaviour. Many in Worcester may not recognise the depth of prejudice driving this activity, but anyone familiar with their online comments and interactions will recognise the white supremacist views that underpin it. This raises serious concerns for community cohesion, public reassurance, and the safety and well-being of residents. It directly conflicts with this council's statutory equalities duties, our commitment to fostering an inclusive city, and our shared responsibility to challenge extremist narratives under the Prevent framework where appropriate. This ideology has no place in our diverse and welcoming city. I therefore urge this council to condemn this behaviour clearly, firmly, and without ambiguity, and to sign our unwavering support for a Worcester where all residents feel safe, valued, and protected from hate, and to support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Mace.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Ed, for bringing this motion this evening, which I'm happy to give my full support to. Those who seek to spread hate and division and misinformation in our city will never win. Alongside the flag campaign that's already been mentioned, which has set neighbour against neighbour, there's been a marked increase in racist and hate-filled abuse and graffiti, including in my own ward. In light of the questions we have heard earlier this evening, which seem focused on implying negative qualities of asylum seekers, I think it's worth considering the following. Nathan Gill, the former leader of Reform in Wales, has just been sentenced to over 10 years in prison for taking Russian bribes. Nigel Farage's right-hand man, George Cottrell, served 8 months in prison in the US for fraud. James McMurdoch MP, elected for Reform UK last year, has a conviction for assaulting his ex-girlfriend. And Viscount Monkton, who spoke at the Reform conference this summer, has previously claimed that gay men live short, miserable lives. I rather think that we should be asking the Reform Party if their staff and elected representatives are being properly screened for criminal behaviour and convictions, unacceptable attitudes towards girls and women, and homophobic and other unacceptable attitudes towards the wider gay community. Worcester is a welcoming city that has rejected division time and again, and I am proud that this is a city, well, this is a council that is a council of sanctuary as a result of the motion proposed by Tom Petrovsky just over 2 years ago. We take in and support people fleeing war and persecution. At various meetings, I've heard about the incredible work that many volunteer groups do in the city to support newcomers. Now, what makes me really angry is the constant blaming of asylum seekers and the deliberate conflation of asylum seekers with legal migrants for our woes in this country. It wasn't asylum seekers who sold off our council homes and didn't replace them. It wasn't asylum seekers who are pumping sewage into our rivers. It wasn't asylum seekers who broke the NHS. The truth is, we need immigration in this country. The birth rate is currently 1.41 children per woman and has been below the replacement rate of 2.1 for over 50 years. If we want to deliver 1.5 million homes by 2029, we will need immigrant skills to build those homes. If we don't want to work longer to pay for an ageing population, we will need immigrants to come here and pay taxes. If we want to fix our NHS, we will need immigrant doctors and nurses to staff and run it. Just last week, the Royal College of Nursing reported that 50,000 migrant nursing staff could leave the UK if ministers press ahead with plans to extend the qualifying period to apply for indefinite leave to remain. All of the hate and division being spread about immigration is making our problems worse, not better, which unfortunately brings me to the Labour government. This motion is called Hope Not Hate and references the Hope Not Hate campaign. Last week, after the Home Secretary announced her changes to the asylum system, Hope Not Hate posted their reaction on Facebook, which said, and I quote, "By mimicking reform to win back support, the Labour government is making a serious mistake. This race to the bottom emboldens Farage, punishes vulnerable people, amplifies racism and undermines those working to hold communities together. The fact that Tommy Robinson and Nigel Farage have welcomed the plans should ring alarm bells for Labour. Instead of pursuing genuine solutions, this performative cruelty helps no one but the far right." Now, these are actions that will worsen division in Worcester. I am happy to support this motion, but I would say to the members opposite, if you're going to reaffirm Worcester City Council's zero tolerance approach to all forms of hate crime and discrimination and believe that standing up against hate strengthens, not divides our city, you should be asking yourselves if you are in the right party. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jagger? Did you indicate? Yep.
Thank you. I came today really wondering if we really need another motion of this. And been sitting very much on the fence. And I take on board the points raised by Mr. Lancaster, and would like some assurances to address that his concerns regarding the political neutrality of Hope Not Hate, particularly in light of his allegations that the organization is being investigated, are addressed. However, I must say that after hearing Councillor Amos's question, I'm shocked and deeply disappointed by it. And this question has enraged me and pushed me towards wanting to support this motion. The fact that he placed scabies, a common treatable skin condition associated with overcrowding and poor living conditions, in the same breath as terrorism and criminal activity is deeply irresponsible. To weaponize a health condition in this way, to stigmatize people that cannot defend themselves, And to present it alongside allegations of extremism and criminality is not legitimate scrutiny, it's fear-mongering, and my fellow Oxford graduate knows that. Sorry. I just can't believe that I am listening to that in this chamber. It's just so upsetting. So because of that question, I am minded to support the motion on the proviso that we get more information about those claims that our speaker spoke earlier. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrenson.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A very quick contribution. I'd like to thank Councillor Kimberley for proposing the motion and being so vocal against the hate and fear being spread by the far right. I salute your bravery and your eloquence. Immigration and diversity make this city and country great. To share a quick anecdote, a few weeks ago, my father had a heart attack while he was at the gym, and an Asian doctor saved his life. And finally, this council has an important role to play in challenging extremism and welcoming people from different backgrounds. So thank you very much for bearing with me, and thanks again to Councillor Kimberley. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much. Councillor Udall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to quote, if I may, from a Daily Mail article, which I recently read. The Daily Mail article said, the people are pouring into this country, it's a takeover. It went on to say, there are fears of job competition, these are just economic refugees, they are aliens in our midst, they carry disease, where have we heard that before? And their rights are being put before our own people's rights. But I must say, this headline was not yesterday, but 1938. And there's reference to Jews fleeing Nazi Germany. Mr. Mayor, we have to be careful. History does repeat itself. Fascism is on the march again, and we have to stand united to defeat it. Put it simply, no pasaran.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lewin.
Thank you, Mayor. I really welcome this motion, and thank you to everyone who spoke in support of it. I would just like to leave us, I don't know if I'm the last speaker, but in Worcester we have somebody who is doing a refugee shoebox appeal. It's on the GoFundMe, but also you can contribute hats, socks, toiletries, stationery, puzzles, games, playing cards and snacks and other things. It's being done by one of our Arboretum residents. I think, there's so much disinformation around, these refugees. You don't leave your country, your family and your home unless you're desperate. I know I wouldn't want to leave my family and my home. And I think coming towards Christmas, we need to show some empathy for these people. Thank you. If anyone can support or promote the shoebox appeal, I'll be very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think councillors are making a commitment to DEI, and unconscious bias is the latest lot of training that we are undertaking to try and enable us to be more responsive to these issues. So I don't think everybody has signed up for the training sessions yet, but I do encourage every councillor to put their name down for one of the sessions so that we can actually speak with authority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Mayor. I've had recent correspondence from a number of women, women residents in the Claines area, deeply concerned about the attitude and the proliferation of flags and the feeling that of suppression and concern it causes them, including one resident who now has to drive to the railway station to collect her sister-in-law, who's Asian, because she is too frightened to come home on public transport. I think we should end that fear.
Thank you very much. I have no more indications of speakers, so I will ask Councillor Kimberley to sum up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we are bombarded every day with disinformation, with lies, with scarcely disguised efforts to smear and scaremonger, it takes great courage to speak up. I want to thank Jessica for making the time to join us this evening to do just that. She has shown us yet again that young people are the brightest hope we have for the future of our country. May her words ring loud and long in all of our hearts. Let me finish this debate by issuing a reminder to those who have forgotten. The city of Worcester is more than a flag. It is more than a dot on a map. It's more than the buildings, more than the cathedral, more than Foregate Street Station or the Butts. It's more than Warndon. It's more than Batten Hall. It's more than Lower Wick. It's more even than Junction 6. What makes Worcester as a city is its people, all of its people. This is a lesson that we on this council understand. We care about all of the people who call this city home, no matter their age, their sexual orientation, their gender, their faith, or their place of birth. This summer, I was forced to take the phone call of my nightmares. Someone had decided to take a can of spray paint and redecorate the garage doors on Cherwell Close off Tolladine Road, covering one of those garage doors with explicit Nazi graffiti. BUF, swastikas, no Jews. This wasn't some random act from some bored teenager. It comes after a barrage of hateful lies about immigrants, about minority communities, about asylum seekers, in our media and online. So let us be clear. That act was the first salvo in a blitzkrieg assault on our values. Their message, delivered straight to one of my residents, was clear. You don't belong here. So today, our message must be equally clear. You do belong here. You are wanted. We do care about you. You are welcome. And we will stand shoulder to shoulder with you against any who would bring you harm. Let us use this opportunity today to show Worcester City Council at its finest, united behind a common cause, standing firm against hate, against disinformation, against social media lies. We will reignite the hope in our fellow citizens' hearts. Colleagues, I ask you to please support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to the vote. Can I remind you to use your voting card? So all those in favour of the motion? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay. And the motion is... Thank you. Folks. The motion is carried. Okay. Thank you very much. I make it 8:54. I propose we have a short break until 9:05, 11 minutes. Please be back on time, please, folks. We've still got a lot to get through. Thank you. Right, thank you very much. Thank you. So we carry on with item 8 and we move to the next motion, motion 2 on renters' rights. And I understand this will be proposed by Councillor Denham.
Thank you, Chair. This is contribution from Councillor Jabber Riaz. So he was hoping to be here, but we don't want him here with his germs. So he has written out his proposal. So I am reading Jabber's words here. He's speaking not only as a councillor, but as someone deeply committed to protecting our residents, especially the most vulnerable renters in Worcester. The Renters' Rights Act, now law as of the 27th of October, together with the first phase of AWAB's law, represents a historic achievement for renters, a true step change in security, dignity and fairness in our private rented sector. This is a Labour government success born from the determination to deliver a renters' charter, which is long overdue. Why this matters and why we must act now. Firstly, stronger legal rights for tenants. The Renters' Rights Act abolishes fixed-term assured short-hold tenancies in favour of periodic tenancies. No more automatic, no-fault evictions under Section 21. Landlords will need valid grounds under Section 28 and they must give longer notice. These reforms give our residents far greater security and peace of mind. They can now challenge rent increases and will have notice of at least 2 months before any rise. Crucially, tenants can now request pets, and landlords may only refuse with justification. And discrimination? It's outlawed. Landlords can no longer refuse tenants on benefits or because they have children. Secondly, AWAB's law. This is an urgent protection for health standards. The first phase of AWAB's law came into force on the 27th of October. It requires social landlords to respond to serious damp or mould within 10 working days, and emergency health and safety hazards must be fixed within 24 hours. This law was born from tragedy. The death of 2-year-old Awab Ishak from exposure to mould, and this has galvanised real change. And now it gives legal teeth to tenant protections previously lacking. Enforcement must be real, but legal rights alone are not enough. We know from national coverage that many local authorities struggle to enforce standards robustly. The Guardian has reported that 2/3 of English councils prosecuted no landlords between 2022 and 2024, despite hundreds of complaints. The Renters' Rights Act gives councils investigatory and enforcement powers, rent repayment orders, investigatory powers, financial penalties. But these powers will be hollow without the resources to act. That's why this motion calls for an impact assessment and a resourcing plan. Our City Council already has a strong record of using enforcement to improve conditions in the private rented sector. Since we introduced our additional HMO licensing scheme, we've extended it to cover the entire city until 2030. Between 2015 and 2020, Worcester licensed hundreds of previously unlicensed HMOs, and over 500 properties needed works to meet safety and health standards. Things like fire alarms, handrails, heating, fire doors, and decent bathing facilities. Most recently, in just 3 months, 46 HMOs improved their living conditions under our interventions. That track record demonstrates 2 things. First, we can do it. Worcester City Council has a strong private sector housing team and they know how to enforce. Second, we must seize this moment. The Renters' Rights Act gives us new powers and we must prepare now to use them. So what are we asking for and why? That's why JABA proposes that our housing officers conduct a detailed assessment and report to Communities Committee on the local impact of this new legislation, including how many of our tenants will benefit, how many landlords may fall under the new rules, the likely volume of complaints or investigations, what additional staffing, training or systems our housing and enforcement teams will need, the financial cost and how to resource it in our budget for next financial year. This will give us a clear evidence-based plan so when the law comes into force or into effect for us locally, we are not caught flat-footed. We want all Worcester tenants to know their rights, to feel safe in their homes and to have confidence in the council's ability to act. This is not just a political win for Labour, it's a social win for our residents. Through this legislation, we are delivering on our values: fairness, security and dignity for renters. But with the celebration comes responsibility. We cannot let this be another well-meaning law that lacks effective enforcement. We must back our housing officers, invest in capability, show our residents that the council is serious and that no rogue landlord can ignore their obligations with impunity. This motion is the first step in making that commitment concrete. In closing, the Renters' Rights Act and AWAB's law represent a generational reform. Worcester must rise to the challenge. Let us commission this impact assessment now, plan properly, allocate resources, and prove that our city will be a leader in defending renters' rights. I commend this motion to the committee and I urge all councillors to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I understand this will be seconded by Councillor De Sira.
Thank you, Mayor. I am very pleased to second this motion. The passage of the Renters' Rights Bill into law in October marks a long overdue shift in the balance of security, dignity and fairness for people who rent their homes. For too long, many private renters, including families with children, younger people starting out and older residents on fixed incomes, have lived with uncertainty, rising costs and the constant fear of losing their homes through no fault of their own. This Labour government has not only recognised that reality, it has acted. In practice, the terms we are now seeing: an end to the Section 21 no-fault eviction gives renters greater stability, clearer enforceable standards for decent housing conditions, stronger safeguards against exploitative practices, and a framework that supports good landlords while cracking down on the minority who fall short. These are meaningful improvements that will make a tangible difference to people's lives, especially to some of our most vulnerable residents who can rely on safe, stable housing as the foundation for work, education, health and community participation. But legislation alone is not enough. Awareness, guidance and local support are essential if the bill's protections are to be felt on the ground. That's why I will strongly endorse the motion's request that the City Council does everything within its remit to ensure both tenants and landlords understand their rights and responsibilities. Good landlords deserve clarity and renters deserve confidence, and our role is to help make this happen. For a fairer housing system, for stronger communities, and for a city where everybody has a secure place to live, I urge members to support this motion.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other speakers? I have Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Mayor. The Renters' Right Act and the implementation of Arab's Law reflect exactly what the Liberal Democrats have been campaigning for nationally. Rights will only matter if the tenants can use them and the council can enforce them. So as part of this assessment, I would like to see identify the enforcement gaps and ensure that residents know exactly how to exercise their rights, and consider whether our housing team needs extra capacity in the 26-27 budget and more resourcing. Worcester should meet and where possible exceed the national standards we have championed and would champion here.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, got the wrong Word document. Bear with me. Talk amongst yourselves. I've got 4 Word documents in front of me. It's getting late. Yeah, I'm going to support this motion, clearly. I'm just wondering why it is a motion, though. The previous Communities Committee was on the 5th of November, and we've known about the new legislation for months. So I'm just wondering why this is a motion, because it could have been part of Communities Committee business anyway. But the real question is about resource implications for City Council housing officers. What resource implications do you anticipate for City Council housing officers as a result of the new legislation? That's the real question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Mace.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Councillor Riaz for bringing this motion. I hope it feels better soon and we see him again in the chamber. I'm happy to support it. We know from the private sector housing stock survey report, one of my favourite reports to refer back to, produced for this council last year, that the private rental housing in Worcester is very insecure. So the increase in tenants' rights is absolutely welcome. It will be of vital importance to make sure that tenants are fully aware of their new rights and they are able to enforce those rights in a fast, fair and equitable manner. I know from my own casework that illegal evictions remain a problem, with tenants feeling there is no one that can help them. I think it is a bit unfortunate that landlords have been given 6 months' notice that the end of Section 21 evictions has not actually happened yet. It's coming in May 2026. An eviction notice specialist, Landlord Action, has reported its busiest month in more than 2 years, with instructions from landlords up 62% year on year in September 2025. So I think part of the problem is that we need not just more resources in 26-27, we need more resources now, because there will absolutely be landlords who are serving eviction notices now to people in Worcester who aren't following the Section 21 process properly. And I would encourage anyone in Worcester who receives an eviction notice between now and May 2026 to reach out to the private housing team for the City Council, who can help to make sure that your eviction notice is of legal standing and enforceable. Because landlords will be taking advantage of this gap between the Act coming into force and actually being implemented in May 2026. The other thing that the new Renters' Right Act will do nothing to do is fix the affordability of housing in Worcester. Green MPs attempted to get rent controls into the bill, but these important amendments were rejected by the government. To properly fix the cost of housing, which affects many in our city, this council needs the power to implement rent controls. It should also be funded to build its own homes and buy homes when landlords decide to sell up. Expanding our own provision is something we have done successfully with temporary accommodation that needs to be replicated in general housing as well. Ideally, the government would establish a state-owned housing manufacturer to deliver homes for the thousands on our housing waiting lists and provide good jobs for thousands of people. Housing is a human right, and I hope that this is, as Councillor Denham referred to, a first step in fixing housing in Worcester.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kimberley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I first started campaigning for Labour in what was then the Gorse Hill ward, I found myself standing on the doorstep of a home on Avon Road. I was delivering leaflets to what I discovered was an HMO. The front door was hanging wide open, exposing the hallway to the elements. This wasn't a new situation. Growing in a corner, half a metre from the front door, was a plant protruding from the crack between the floor and the wall. And this was not an entirely unusual case. I found similar awful cases around what was then the Gorse Hill ward and now Warndon and Elbury Park. These cases and cases like them opened my eyes to the depths of what can happen when housing is unregulated, when landlords are not held accountable, when tenants are exploited. Worcester's HMO licensing policy is a start. AWAB's law, great next step. The new Renters' Rights Act is a huge step forwards. Let's be absolutely clear. There are, of course, more steps to be taken. We are short by hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of homes across the country, and residents around our city continue to inhabit properties that are uninsulated, unsecured, unsuitable, overcrowded. This is the toxic legacy of past governments who sold off council housing stock in industrial quantities and created a house building system that rewarded land banking over construction. We continue to have a system that enables NIMBYs and punishes young people who want nothing more than a safe, warm place to live. While we fight for further steps, let's make absolutely sure that our council's housing officers are fully equipped to support our residents, to use the full powers of the new legislation to protect them against the abuse that we know takes place. And as a closing note, I never again want to deliver a leaflet to a house that has plants inside what should be the front hall unless they are in a pot. I'll be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I don't see any other indications for speakers, and therefore I'll ask for Councillor Denham to sum up.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the contribution of all colleagues. I've not heard anybody actually speak against the motion. It's important that this is about taking action. I think, you know, the diagnosis and the appalling state of housing across the UK that we have inherited. The changes in legislation that the government have brought about is absolutely shifting the dial and shifting it for ordinary people, for renters' rights, and that's really important. It isn't possible in passing legislation to have an instant flicking of the switch. Our housing officers do a great job. I absolutely would commend to anybody to look on our website at the housing advice pages. There is an enormous amount of good advice there for both tenants and landlords. And if that isn't accessible, you know, Trinity House is open to the public to go in and get advice. The motion is about getting an assessment for the resource implications for our housing department for consideration in budget setting for next year. We don't yet know exactly what funds we'll have available, but it will be important to look at the priorities for how we spend our money. It is always prioritising is important, and this motion is about having that information in time for budget setting in February in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move to the vote. So all those in favour of the motion? Looks unanimous. Any against? Any abstentions? One. Okay. So the motion is carried. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Motion 3, community safety, and this is proposed by Councillor Kinnersley.
Thank you, Chair. This motion asks colleagues to note the situation regarding the West Mercia Police Force's budget pressures this year and the manner in which the Police and Crime Commissioner for West Mercia communicated these budget difficulties to key partners. It asks Council to request the Managing Director of Worcester City Council to write to the PCC for West Mercia, asking for further clarity on the impact of the budget cuts, and also calls for increased support and funding for neighbourhood policing in Worcester. Earlier this year, the working hours of West Mercia's police and community sport officers were altered so that they do not work past 8 p.m, a change that was introduced in response to the serious budget issues being faced by West Mercia Police Force and the resulting need to cut expenditure. This change to the working hours of PCSOs was of great concern to partner organisations and the public, as these officers are the cornerstone of neighbourhood policing and are key to ensuring that the public is and feels safe. Then in July this year, it was reported that a continuing pay issue, which had originally been identified last year, was causing a further overspend of 8 million in 2025-26. And so even more measures would be needed to bring spending down to be within the already squeezed budget. These latest measures include the loss of 300 staff positions, and whilst these might not be frontline officer roles, it does mean that police officers will, as a result, have to cover the work previously done by staff posts. Budget cuts and insufficient funding from national government is a narrative that all those in the public sector are only too familiar with. My issue, and the reason for bringing forward this motion, is that, firstly, it could be argued that the Police and Crime Commissioner for West Mercia should have required a deeper dive into the pay issues when the 2025-26 budget was being constructed, so that there was a fuller understanding of any necessary cuts at the start of the year, which could have been shared with partners in a timely manner. Secondly, I think it is disappointing that when the in-year 8 million budget hole was identified over the summer, the letter sent to local authorities was very general and provided no real idea of the overall magnitude and impact of the cuts that might be necessary, or invited conversations around this. So, yes, we should continue to call on national government to dig deeper into its pockets to ensure that the delivery of neighbourhood policing is protected from cuts as much as possible. But also, the Police and Crime Commissioner has a responsibility to local partners to provide adequate detail where there is likely to be an impact for those partners. In the remaining 2 years that we have a Police and Crime Commissioner, before the positions are abolished, I hope that we can anticipate higher levels of clarity and transparency over issues to do with the police force budget and improved communication with key partners. I urge colleagues to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I understand this motion is being seconded by Councillor Udall.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second this motion, but let's be clear about this. These police cuts are politically motivated. They're neither necessary or required. UK total policing budget for 2025-26 is 19.6 billion. This is an increase of 1.2 billion compared to the previous year. This is the biggest single increase in police funding since the last Labour government, and it comes after 14 years of Tory cuts to frontline policing. So these cuts are deliberately designed to create political pressure upon the government and come from a police commissioner who is bankrupt of ideas, policy and strategy. The damage these cuts will cause is obvious. Cutting administrative support staff does not mean the jobs will not get done. It's not a cut to needless administration. Unfortunately, his office remains untouched. It's a cut to policing, which will hurt. It will drag response officers and community support officers away from frontline policing and will ensure well-trained police officers are kept indoors, tied up with paperwork and dealing with administration, which will take them away from fighting crime. It will reduce public access, limiting times when the public can access help and support. We will have to see even more police stations which are closed to the public. Response times will also be cut. Crimes will go undetected and public frustration and anger will rise. It's an encouragement to criminals, a licence to those engaged in being antisocial, and is a risk to public disorder. The police commissioner will be the police commission, with his job soon to be abolished in 2028, is taking his frustration out on police officers and diverting attention away from his own inability to do the job. He does have other options, primarily to cut his own budget and his own office. He has created a retirement home for failed Conservative councillors with multiple deputies and assistant commissioners, all well paid and all doing totally irrelevant things to the real needs of policing. A staggering 8% of the police budget goes to supporting the police commissioner's own private office, an office which is soon to be abolished and an office which he should be winding down. We need to see more investment and less police commissioners. We need to see more police officers and less deputy and assistant commissioners. This is a commissioner who took over a year to recruit a chief constable. He has consequently lost all the respect and confidence of rank and file police officers and is totally unqualified for the job. West Mercia and Worcester deserves better. Unfortunately, that will only come in 2028 when he's abolished. I second.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers? I think I've got Councillor Amos.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I fully support this motion because it raises the fundamental issue of how Worcester is being policed and the budget mismanagement of those tasked with providing the service. A report earlier this year revealed that 51% of people no longer have confidence in West Mercia Police. A devastating figure, given that the police can only be effective and successful if they have the confidence and consent of the public, which they clearly do not have. Mr. Mayor, this motion rightly refers to local policing, local neighbourhood policing or community policing. It is a hugely successful method of policing, with councillors and the local policing team of officers and PCSOs working closely together, exchanging information. It works because it is rooted in the community, relying on local knowledge to prevent and detect crime. The police build up a body of knowledge and experience which becomes essential in dealing with crime and antisocial behaviour. The decision to stop PCOs working after 8 p.m, when so much crime and antisocial behaviour occurs after that time, is sheer madness and will lead to a significant increase in crime and public fear for their safety. Of course, Mr. Mayor, the fundamental problem with all this is that the Police and Crime Commissioner's office is nothing but a gravy train for failed Conservative politicians who can't get elected to anything, which has failed to reflect the public's views, to hold the police accountable, has overseen a rise in crime and antisocial behaviour, and has left us with a budget deficit of an amazing 27 million, or nearly 10% of its total budget. The Police and Crime Commissioner himself, only a few months ago, failed in his attempt to get elected to Worcestershire County Council. Clearly, his nearly £80,000 a year salary wasn't enough, and he doesn't have enough to do or isn't doing it. His deputy, unelected and so unaccountable to anybody, is on nearly 40,000, was until recently a part-timer, a failed parliamentary candidate and a county councillor. There are 2 assistant police and crime commissioners, each on 20,000 for 2.5 days a week, unelected and so not accountable to anybody either. One was a county and city councillor, then failed to get elected to the district seat in Wychavon, then failed to get a county seat, whilst the other one was the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner a few years ago, but now through the revolving door process is back in as an Assistant Police and Crime Commissioner. It's a farce, and this is why we've got farcical outcomes. The cost of the PCC's office, Mr Mayor, rose last year by a massive nearly 15% to over £12 million. The Chief Executive of the Police and Crime Commissioner's office is an extraordinary £102,000 a year. So, Mr Mayor, you can see why policing in Worcester is now about to become even less responsive and less local than it is up to now. That is the answer to the resolution in the motion, and it is the direct consequence of an organisation unfit for purpose but still able to further damage policing in its dying days before abolition, the death throes. The Police and Crime Commissioner's office has merely been a very costly and self-serving outfit which has achieved very little, if not to say nothing, except to introduce two-tier policing, to leave community policing under threat, to oversee shoplifting out of control, and residents vulnerable and concerned for their safety. So for these reasons, I thank the movers of the motion and the seconder of the motion, and I will be very enthusiastically supporting it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jagger.
Thank you. I'd like to speak on behalf of Councillor Murray, who couldn't be here because she's unwell. So she's asked me to read out the statement on her behalf. So as Liberal Democrats, we'll be supporting this motion. Residents across Worcester are worried about what's happening with policing, and they have every reason to be. PCSOs off duty at 8 p.m, key staff roles cut, and officers being pulled off the streets to fill gaps behind the scenes. This all adds up to less visible policing, and it's at the very time communities need more reassurance. This motion rightly calls for clarity. Councillors can lead on or reassure residents if we don't know what the cuts mean for response times, visibility, and neighbourhood presence. This isn't about party politics, it's about whether someone is there when you need them. Worcester deserves transparency, and our communities deserve to feel safe and informed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other indications of... Councillor Round.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I was just changing after what, I can't follow what Councillor Amos has said really, but I wanted to say I'm broadly supportive of the intent here. We all want clarity and we all want safer streets. But I have to be honest, writing to the Police and Crime Commissioner's office sometimes feels like entering a political washing machine. You put in a straightforward question, it goes through a full spin cycle of party political commentary, and I could add a stronger word there, and it comes back looking nothing like what you asked for. We all know the likely reply, it's the government's fault, and meanwhile Worcester residents are left wondering whether anybody's actually focusing on their street or important matters for them, rather than the political ping pong that is the Police and Crime Commissioner's office. In fact, I have more chance of having a conversation with Father Christmas than a positive response from the PCC. So, yeah, I fully support this motion and I can't wait till 2028 arrives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other indicators of speakers, and so I would ask Councillor Kinnersley to sum up, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to thank colleagues for their contributions, and I'm not sure I can add anything further. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So if we'd like to move to the vote. So all those in favour of the motion? Okay. All those against? And any abstentions? No, so that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Excellent. Thank you. We now move to the final motion of the evening, enabling outdoor play and community belonging. Can you just clarify, has this motion been amended? It's proposed by Katie Collier, Councillor Collier.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is an amended version of this motion I'd like to present. We have some handouts, if everyone would like to take a minute or two to have a look, and then I'll talk through them.
Thank you. Okay, so for the purposes of the tapes, and obviously those who are watching this at home or later on, can you take us through the changes? Is that right, Councillor Collier?
Yep, absolutely. I'll take us through the changes. In fact, I will start from the very top and go through it like that. So, this motion is the Enabling Outdoor Play and Community Belonging motion this evening. This motion builds on the Worcester Play Plan that sets out ambitious development for our play space across the city, and this motion acknowledges that play goes beyond playgrounds. Council acknowledges the vital role that physical activity and outdoor play have in supporting the health, well-being and development of children and young people across Worcester. Council notes that outdoor play in England has declined by 50% in a generation, with traffic, fear of crime and unwelcoming public spaces contributing to this drop. Research published in the British Medical Journal identified a mental health crisis in young people before COVID-19, with the pandemic simply making all issues worse and widening inequalities. Council notes the work undertaken by the charity Playing Out. Play streets, or playing out sessions, are neighbour-led temporary road closures on quiet residential streets, creating a safe space for children to play freely together on their doorstep. With consensus from neighbours, residents facilitate play sessions in the street. Residents still have vehicle access and can leave their cars parked on the road. In addition to giving children the opportunity to be more active, learn skills and make friends on the street, play streets can have a huge impact on community connection, feelings of belonging and reducing isolation. Playing out can allow children and young people to build emotional resilience through creating strong ties to the local community and developing both social skills and a sense of belonging. Council notes that the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child includes Article 31, leisure, play and culture. Every child has the right to relax, play and take part in a wide range of cultural and artistic activities. Council also recognises the need to ensure that all public spaces feel safe and inclusive for people of all ages. In developing these proposals, care should be taken to address the concerns of older residents. Council notes SWDPR 10 provides for health and wellbeing and says that proposals for new developments must consider their impact on health and wellbeing and provide opportunities for its improvement. It describes the need of providing accessible open spaces, including appropriate located size and equipped areas for all members of the community. This includes reference to prioritising people over vehicular traffic. These actions support Worcester's ambitions for healthier communities, more child-friendly neighbourhoods and stronger social connections across the city. Council therefore resolves to, and you'll see that the first 3 bullet points have been removed. And we begin with, Council therefore resolves to invite partners with responsibility for delivering play, with responsibility for infrastructure to work with the Council to deliver a variety of play options, encouraging increased physical activities and building stronger community cohesion. For example, play streets. Secondly, review signage or other features that may unintentionally discourage informal outdoor play and request this of our housing providers. And finally, provide a report to the Place and Economic Development Committee as part of the regular play plan updates. Mr. Mayor, would you suggest that that was all clear now?
To me, thank you.
Firstly, can I just thank Councillor Norfolk for her hard work in developing the amended motion with me. The suggested actions in this motion are low cost, high impact, and our commitment as a council to developing play spaces is ambitious and commendable, but children grow ever unhealthy, miserable and isolated as we wait for the finances to install more slides or splash pads or pump tracks. To continue to believe that children and their play belong solely in playgrounds is to diminish the place and rights of children. In the words of Enrique Penaloza, former mayor of Bogota, children are the indicator species of a city, and I believe that's true. Cities where children are present are healthy, inclusive and safe cities. Are our children happily visible in Worcester? Today, in the Worcester News, on page 6, there was a report on a publication from the Institute of Health Equity and the Barnardo's charity that highlights how children in the UK has some of the worst health outcomes in Europe. This motion also, I believe, links back happily to the first motion we voted on this evening. People coming together in their communities brings hope and powerful change. I very much look forward to your contributions.
Very much. And I understand it's going to be seconded by Councillor Cooper.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I strongly support Councillor Collier's motion, which is about the fundamental right and need for children to play. We acknowledge that Worcester has an ambitious play plan, but this motion acknowledges that play happens on our doorsteps and on our streets. We must look beyond the fence of the playground and into our neighbourhoods. The evidence is clear and deeply concerning. Outdoor play is halved in a generation. This drop is linked to mental health crisis as identified by the British Medical Journal, a crisis worsened by the pandemic. The motion correctly points to traffic, safety fears and unwelcoming public spaces as the culprits. Outdoor play is the most accessible form of preventative healthcare we can offer children, with specific lifelong benefits that are often overlooked. For example, regular play helps combat the childhood obesity and develops motor skills and coordination. Bone density, crucially running, jumping and vigorous play outside involves weight-bearing exercise. This activity is essential for stimulating bone growth during childhood and adolescence, maximising peak bone density. This is a vital defence against conditions like osteoporosis in later life. Furthermore, research has strongly shown that time spent outdoors, even during non-vigorous play, can reduce short-sightedness or myopia. The exposure to natural daylight is essential for healthy eye development, meaning play streets are not just good for the legs, but good for the long-term vision too. Outdoor play remains essential for emotional resilience. It provides natural outlet for stress, anxiety, boosting mood, fostering social skills, necessity to thrive by simply connecting with peers on their own street. This motion offers a powerful community-led solution, Play Streets, as highlighted by the charity Playing Out. This action creates a safe haven countering the fear of traffic that has restricted a whole generation. The England and Wales Cricket Board, ECB, advocate for Play Streets to get more children involved in sport. This is low-cost, high-impact actions that can directly support Worcester's ambition for healthy communities, stronger social connections. We must address the concerns of all residents, especially older people, but we cannot delay securing the health and development of our young people. I urge all members to support this motion and give Worcester's children the power to play in their own neighbourhoods. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Yes, Councillor Round.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not opposed to the intentions behind this motion because supporting outdoor play and child-friendly communities is vital. But because I do have a problem that there is a fundamental admission that we just can't ignore. This motion makes no reference to disabled children, not once. And yet it is disabled children who face the greatest barriers to outdoor play, to community life and to the very public spaces that this motion seeks to improve. If we pass this motion without addressing that omission, we risk widening the very inequalities we claim we want to solve. Let me outline why this matters. Outdoor play in England has fallen sharply in recent decades, but that decline is even more steeper for disabled children. They are more likely to be excluded by inaccessible equipment, uneven pavements, a lack of safe routes, sensory overload, unclear signage or social stigma. For many families, simply reaching a playground is an obstacle course. This motion speaks positively about play streets, but play streets are currently modelled, can be completely inaccessible for many disabled children, particularly those with mobility impairments, visual impairments, autism, sensory processing needs or learning disabilities. A noisy, unpredictable, unstructured street environment is not a universal play environment. Without adaptation, it is exclusion masquerading as inclusion. The motion cites Article 31 of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, yet omits Article 23, which states that disabled children have the right to a life of dignity, independence and full participation. Our duty under the Equality Act is also clear. We must proactively advance equality of opportunity, not assume that non-disabled solutions automatically solve disabled problems. Worcester cannot call itself a child-friendly city if it is not a disabled-friendly city. Inclusive design is not optional, accessible play is not a luxury, and disabled children must not become an afterthought in policies that will shape their daily lives. I was going to suggest an amendment, but I think we've moved on, but it's too late for that. As this is not about weakening a motion, it's about strengthening so it serves all children in Worcester and not just those without disabilities. We have the chance today to lead, to uphold our legal duties and to build a city where every child, regardless of ability, has the right to play, to belong and be part of their community. I ask our colleagues to, in its current form, that this motion should not go ahead, as no child should be left out in this city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jagger.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say that we are very happy to support this motion because we agree in the principle and the work our colleague has done to improve play provision in the city. However, I will take this opportunity to say something else. We worry that on this side of reorganization, somewhere between the committee report and the actual action, all meaningful action will actually disappear. Even if action is taken, I am increasingly concerned that the Place and Economic Development Committee is fast becoming the Play Committee, with very little interest in economic development. And yes, I am referring to the committee's apathy towards our mobile connectivity motion that we passed last time we met. We voted for it, and all we got was a letter nicely saying, nice idea, but we will do nothing about it. So what is the point in passing all these motions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Norfolk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not my place to answer to points raised by other speakers, but I'd just like to add that we're not inventing policy here. We're not making policy here. The policy already exists. It's SWDPR 10. If we need, well, there is no if, we do need to include all children in accessible play, and I would look and expect officers to respond to that when we meet the challenges raised by this motion. I'd like to thank Councillor Collier for taking the time to speak with me over the weekend about this motion. I will be pleased, more than pleased, to support the motion. If I may just for one moment look forward to confirmation during tomorrow's budget of further funding for the Pride in Place programme towards refurbishing playgrounds in the most deprived areas, a step in the right direction. As I was preparing for this debate, I couldn't help but remember those halcyon days of over 50 years ago when the vast majority of mine and my siblings' playtime was in the street, when, according to my memory at least, every summer's day was sunny and the weather fine, and every winter it snowed enough for us to build snowmen and have snowball fights. As one of our public speakers has already mentioned, I remember making the acquaintance of several elderly neighbours and causing my parents some great amusement after I refused to talk to strangers. I have more recent and embarrassing memories of live-action role-playing in the Clent Hills, playing an elven warrior searching for an evil mage during a live-action role-playing game. Adults, young and old, deserve low-cost outside play too. I fail to understand why there has been opposition to play streets, and I very much disagree with one Worcester News commenter who remarked that families should get into their cars and drive somewhere to go and play. This council is very right to be proud of the play delivery over the last couple of years. The play team have worked hard to deliver our play plan over the last couple of years, and despite the future of this council, I sincerely hope that those members elected to the new unitary authority speak as loudly as members in this council do for those who play in this city. It is right that play should take the safety of our children into consideration, and I join in this call for partnership working to ensure that outside play, including play streets, can be delivered with all the imagination those working with us can muster. Anyone reading the Worcester News today will have enjoyed the supplement celebrating young people's football. It must be noted that whilst unstructured play is important, so is structured play, and recent studies have shown that structured play can have a significant impact on antisocial behaviour. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of those involved in play of this form for their continued involvement. If I can close by quoting Eugene Minogue, Director of Play England, it is worth bearing in mind that children make up 20% of our population, but 100% of our future. Their access to play should reflect that. I commend this motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Amos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and can I first of all thank the mover of the motion, Councillor Collier, for her courtesy in contacting me beforehand. And I would very, very much like to support this motion because I share the sentiment behind it. It's well-intentioned, well-meaning and very sensible. But I do have one particular difficulty with it, making it, I think, simply impractical to implement. This is the problem. It's not that I disagree with what she's trying to do, but to actually implement it. Yes, certainly the paragraph which refers to the vital roles that physical activity and outdoor play have in supporting the health, well-being and development of children and young people across Worcester, as the motion says, absolutely spot on, correct. And I would also say to Councillor Collier that I think the amended version is much, much better than the original one by removing references to planning, because planning is a nightmare at the best of times. The idea that locally or nationally you can change planning policy, well, I wish her well, but it certainly hasn't worked in the last 10 years as far as I can see. Also, there is reference to the decline of outdoor play and the reasons for it. Again, that's certainly a fact. But I'm assuming that this is a reference to using parks and other open spaces. One drawback to this motion, I think, is that it does not refer to, let alone even mention, the critical role of parents in all this, who, of course, have the primary responsibility for children's welfare. Obviously, councils, government can help, but the primary responsibility is for parents. So would like to have seen that role developed a little bit more. So, accepting the decline in play activity, that's a fact. There are just a couple of small points. Perhaps Councillor Collier could take them up when she sums up. But I'm not quite sure why the pandemic would have made all issues worse. Perhaps you could explain that. However, to come on to the central point, Mr Mayor, my main concern is about, quote, neighbour-led temporary road closures. This is what I'm talking about with sheer impracticality. The questions are, who are these neighbours going to be? How are they going to get any kind of agreement with other people in the street? And I'd like to know what the definition of a quiet residential street is and who's going to define that, and also who is going to enforce it. Because with the best will in the world, if you've got a group of residents who don't want it and it goes ahead and they don't cooperate, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, but I can foresee public conflict and dispute there. Now, of course, in rare national events, such as a coronation, there will be street parties and therefore street closures. But in many areas, if not most areas actually, but just for that particular well-trailed event. But can I ask the movers of the motion, do they really know just how difficult, if not impossible, it actually is to close a road? Particularly these proposed ones, which look to me, in the nicest possible way, ad hoc, irregular, frequent or infrequent, and really all over the city. Roads are built for traffic and not play areas. And the other important point, Mr Mayor, which I hope, I'm sure Councillor Collier will take up, about the displacement effect of this traffic onto other roads. So are the residents in the other roads where the displacement is taking effect, are they going to be consulted? Because this is where you're going to get real conflict if more traffic goes down some roads because other roads are closed, albeit for periods of time. So I see this seriously, Mr Mayor, as a recipe for public conflict, and that's what bothers me. On the more positive note, I'm pleased to see reference to the need to address the
1 more
concerns...
minute, Councillor Amos.
Sorry?
1 more minute.
Thank you. And I'm pleased to see, Mr Mayor, the reference still in the new version to, quote, the need to address the concerns of older residents. I'm glad that's been left in, although I'm sure many of them will not see this kind of activity as being compatible with their living in a quiet residential street. So again, that's just another factor to take into account. And of course, do remember that emergency vehicles need ready access at all times to all roads. So these roads cannot physically be closed off. They cannot physically be closed off. And so therefore, in conclusion, Mr Mayor, again, perhaps Councillor Collier could just answer the question where it talks about reviewing the signage that may unintentionally discourage informal outdoor play, because I generally do not know what that's referring to. So on balance so far, Mr Mayor, I would find it difficult to support
Councillor
the
Amos,
motion because I think it's impractical to implement.
That's your time. Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Lewin.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to make a very short invitation to Councillor Amos to come to the Arboretum at the next Play Street so he can see how brilliant it actually is, how it is supported by the residents and how it works. The speaker earlier is the person who has actually worked very hard with the local community to make sure everything that all his concerns were addressed, and perhaps then he could try one in his ward. Thank you.
Councillor Pingree.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to counter Councillor Amos's point that he said, roads are made for traffic. I would argue that not all roads are made for traffic, especially not through traffic. In fact, I'm lucky enough to have grown up in the ward that you are a city councillor, and I can think of many places, many cul-de-sacs, for example, Willis Place, that me and my siblings played in when we were younger, that the residents there were very happy for children to play in, and the cars there were very, aware that there would be children in the road and slowed down accordingly. These roads aren't being entirely closed when we are having play streets, but there is a bit more of an agreement between the residents and the children and the parents that traffic will be going slower. I'm sure Katie will sum it up better for me than I will, but thank you.
Okay. Is that an indication, Councillor Udall? Yeah, Councillor Udall.
I would like to invite Councillor Amos to look at the local authorities which have actually adopted Play Street. I'm talking about places like Blackpool, Coventry, Lichfield, Barnet, Merton, Lambeth, Oxford, Cambridge, many cities and towns of similar size and description to Worcester. I think there's a popular misconception and a misunderstanding about what actually Play Streets means. It does not mean a permanent closure of a street to traffic to enable children to play. It means at pre-arranged advertised times for sometimes no more than an hour at a time, once a week, once a month, or even once a quarter, children will be permitted to play in the street, and they will have priority over the cars. It's quite simple. It's done elsewhere. We can do it here. Let's get on with it.
Thank you, Councillor Udall. Any other contributions? I don't see any indications, so I'll invite Councillor Collier to sum up.
Thank you, and thank everyone for your contributions. To sum up, I can only really say, I don't think I can say much more than some of the really quite brilliant things that colleagues have said around the room. We haven't yet done enough for our children, and that's why we're bringing the motion today. Children playing out in our city are often told that them being out is antisocial behaviour. Sometimes, as has happened in my ward, people call the police to ask them to get the parents to bring them in. On local Facebook groups, people moan incessantly about children if they play out, whilst also decrying how children want nothing but their screens these days. And this is all within the context of a health crisis for our children. I wanted to address some points. I absolutely believe that we need to make our city child-friendly for all children and to make play as accessible as we really can do. I do feel forced slightly to feel the need to defend myself somewhat and to clarify that I obviously did reach out to Councillor Round and I asked for her feedback a week ago, and it's such a shame that she didn't take me up on that because I would have really very much appreciated the feedback, and that is why I asked for it. Councillor Amos, I really appreciate how much consideration you've given the motion, I do hear your concerns. The role of parents is something that I will give consideration. To answer a couple of your questions, our public speaker did discuss how she'd facilitated play streets, consultation she'd conducted, and some detail, she's talking about 2 hours on a weekend every 6 weeks. But I'd love for us to have a longer conversation about that, and I think we probably should. This is clearly very important to me and to lots of you and to all of our children in our city. And I can't say much more than that, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we will now move to the vote. So all those in favour of the motion? Okay. And all those against? And abstentions? Thank you very much. And the motion is carried. Thank you very much. We now move on to item 9, which are reports from relevant committees on matters which are referred to Council for decision. And the first couple of reports are from Audit and Governance. So 9.1 is the referral report from Audit and Governance Committee on the 23rd of September, which is the annual Audit and Governance Committee report. And I think this is going to be proposed by Councillor Lawrenson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. I'd like to thank all officers and committee colleagues who have supported the work of the Audit and Governance Committee over the past year, especially the Vice Chair, Councillor De Seyra. I'd also like to publicly acknowledge the work of our former S151 Officer Shane Flynn, much missed, and former Head of Finance Mark Baldwin, also much missed, who are currently enjoying their retirement. As stated at the start of the annual report, I'd also like to thank Sal Khan, who replaced Shane on an interim basis during the year. I'd also like to thank Karen Jones from our external auditors, ASETS, who have devised a plan to achieve fully audited accounts following the COVID years in which accounts could not be finalised and signed off, and before the Unitary Authority comes into being. So we are looking forward to achieving fully audited accounts. The annual report in front of us on the agenda was considered by the Audit and Governance Committee on the 23rd of September, and members of the committee approved the document. The report shows that the Audit and Governance Committee has successfully achieved its objectives over the last year. And I'll do my best to answer any questions that you might have in relation to the annual report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And this item is being seconded by Councillor De Seyra.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to just add slightly to what Neil has said. I'd like to record sincere thanks to all officers and committee colleagues who have supported the work of the Audit and Governance Committee over the last year. The committee plays a vital role in the council's checks and balances, and following on from Neil's comments, one other area of progress deserves particular recognition. A refreshed risk management strategy has been adopted, and members have already begun arrangements to support its implementation. Sharing this officer responsibility with members will help build ownership and transparency, and this approach is to be commended as we move ahead. On this basis, this relates to both reports and the work of the committee more widely, I commend them to the council.
Okay, are there any other speakers on this item? Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Mayor. As a new councillor, I found myself sat on Audit and Governance. Many would not enjoy this committee, but as a technical auditor in a UCAS laboratory, I understood the importance of underpinning our council with a committee that checks our performance and accountability. Whilst I'm disappointed that the Ernst & Young reports required back-stepping now, but I'm confident that the new external auditors will help to the endeavour the committee and the auditors and the committee will endeavour to never have to repeat that action.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, really commend the work done here. Some would view this as being not exciting, but it's actually really fundamental and foundational. You know, these are the foundations of public service, and it has to be absolutely right. A couple of questions, really, which this isn't quite question and answer session, but I would just, if I phrase it more as just a comment, I'd love to see some clarity on how many local authorities are in paragraph 7.5 having to publish the final accounts with less confidence than usual. That backstop issue. How many other local authorities are in that position? Happy to receive a response or clarification on that. I suspect it's quite a few councils, but I'd love to get that clarity later. And also, similarly, in paragraph 7.8, the PSAA will give advice about how much would be charged for work not done because of this backstop. Once evidence has been provided by Ernst & Young, slightly open-ended. If there is any clarity, roughly when that may be by, again, I'll be happy to receive that. But otherwise, those are the only two questions, and I'm really happy to support this. Thank you.
Just for clarification, this is a referral report, so it's not a Q&A aspect of it. Okay. Any other speakers? I don't see anyone. Just for clarification, our role here, we just received this report. There's no vote required. The item is just for noting. Okay, thank you very much. Noted, good. 9.2 is also a referral report from Audit and Governance, and this is the Treasury Management Annual Report. And again, this is proposed by Councillor Lawrenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, very quick overview. So the Treasury Management Annual Report for 24-25 was considered by the Audit and Governance Committee also on the 23rd of September. Just to summarise what we mean by Treasury Management, it entails the management of the Council's cash flows, its borrowings and investments, and the management of associated risks. The report tonight is referred to full Council for information in accordance with the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy's Treasury Management Code. So yes, this is for receiving rather than a Q&A. Any questions we'll have to respond to later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, this is seconded by Councillor Desira.
My first seconding sort of captured both reports, so I don't have anything further to add.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other speakers on this item? I don't see any. And again, this is no votes required. This item is for noting. Okay. 9.3, this is one where we do have to have a vote, and this is a referral report from Policy and Resources Committee on the Freedom Leisure proposed fees and charges for 2026, and this is proposed by Councillor Denham.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, fees and charges for Freedom Leisure. They like us to be able to agree these at this time of year so that they can be implemented on the 1st of January and catch all those enthusiastic people with New Year's resolutions. So this report has been to Communities Committee, where it was debated, examined, scrutinised, unanimously agreed. It then came to Policy and Resources Committee last week and was also agreed, but because it does involve finance, it does require to come to full council.
Thank you very much, and this will be seconded by Councillor Mace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second this and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any speakers on this item? I don't see any. Okay, so we move straight to the vote. So all those in favour of the report? Okay, any against? And any abstentions? No, so that has been accepted unanimously. Thank you very much. And then the final report, 9.4, is a referral report from Policy and Resources Committee on Council Tax Long-Term Empty Homes Premium. And this is again for us to agree, so there'll be a vote on this one. And this is going to be proposed by Councillor Denham.
Thank you, Chair. This is about making use of the available legislation to increase charges for council tax on empty homes. We have current agreements in place, so this is about enabling that charge to be incurred after a property's been emptied for 1 year rather than 2 years. We debated it fairly extensively at Policy and Resources Committee. It is not about making a massive income for this council, not least because we only get a small share of any council tax that is collected overall. It's about a message to owners of homes that are not occupied and to encourage them to bring them into occupation, to put them out to rent, to get tenants in or put the property up for sale. And that's the decision that we're asking full council to endorse.
Thank you very much. And this will be seconded by Councillor Jagger.
I'd just like to offer my support for this motion.
Thank you very much. And are there any other speakers? Yeah, I've got Councillor Holmes.
Having not been at PNR, and I believe there was extensive questions, but mine just relates to, is this only for empty properties going forward, or if there's evidence that they've been unoccupied and underused for a while, will this be able to be applied retrospectively?
I don't think it will be applied retrospectively, but if we know when properties are empty or when we become aware of, and we are already have a policy in place to charge 100% premium for council tax when they've been empty between 2 years and 5 years. So if we missed, so to speak, the 1 year, there'll be the clock will be ticking, won't it, towards 2 years, and charging already in place, charging 200% if a proper home is empty for between 5 and 10 years. So there'll be a sort of a, not retrospective, but if a property is not being used, it will fall into the category.
Yeah, what I meant was, I know of a property that's been unoccupied for less than 10 years.
Can we move on? Councillor Lewin.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was at P&L when this was debated, but I just thought it was worth saying, I recognise it's really good that this isn't about money, this is about shifting behaviour. Every vacant property has the potential to be a safe and secure home for somebody. And what we don't want is people not having homes that have got people in them unnecessarily. Of course, there are going to be situations with family circumstances where this won't apply. I understand it will be a case-by-case process, and we've got to have things like policies like this, because the problem property group, working group, have got so much casework. The powers that they have, it's very bureaucratic, it's expensive, it takes a lot of time, it's very resource intensive. So having a policy like this, which hopefully will shift behaviour, is extremely welcome. Thank you.
Councillor Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, really endorse this this proposal. It's been a long time coming. Planning nationally is being modified, and I have concerns about the sort of lack of local determination that's within the planning reforms that are being proposed and discussed. In terms of figures, we're told that we have a shortage of 1.4 or 1.5 million homes in the country. We currently have, say, 310,000 in England, according to Empty Homes Network, and of long-term empty homes as of now, and another million that are dwellings that are not used as primary residences overall. So we can meet that need without building over our woodlands and affecting our green spaces in the way and this dreadful terminology of grey belt. So absolutely bring it on. This needs sorting out, and we need to have effective communications so that residents and other, the owners of empty homes can understand their civic need to actually help house people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other speakers? I don't see any. So we'll move to the vote. So all those in favour of the report? Any against? Any against? Any abstentions? No, so the report is approved. Thank you very much. Item 10, report from the Leader of the Council on any matters which they are of the opinion require urgent consideration. I'm not aware of any. No, thank you very much, Councillor Denham. And item 11, any exempt items, and there are no exempt items to consider. So the meeting is closed, and there is cake in the Mayor's Parlour should you wish to partake. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you. Oh, look,